Miss Nina Simone said to us, an artist's duty is to reflect the times. And at this time in our lives when everything is so desperate, I don't think you can help but be involved. We will mold and shape this country, and it will not be molded without us. How can an artist not be involved? How can an artist not reflect the times? I echo this and augment what Miss Nina Simone said. An artist's job is to reflect and project the times. To reflect the times is a call to give us a reality check, to call out the problems and to call in the opportunities, to speak truth to power and power the souls of the powerless. But to project the times is a call to cast vision. It was Margaret Atwell that said to us, what oppression takes from us is our imagination. Artists are our imagination warriors. They fight through darkness, despair, confusion, oppression to stir imagination in the hearts of a desperate people who are losing our humanity amidst the mess. The world needs artists to heal, to inspire, to encourage us, and to remind us that politics is the art of the possible. My clarion call today is for artists to step up and take your place in this country as the torchbearers of imagination, vision, and the ability so that we can once again fulfill what Steve Biko dreamt of when he said, let us march forth with courage and determination, drawing strength from our common plight and our brotherhood. In time, we shall be in a position to bestow on South Africa the greatest gift possible, a more human face. This morning, we're going to salute the artists of South Africa, and we want to make a call to the artists of South Africa to take your place. Politics is about consciousness, and I think in the 80s and the 70s and the 60s, we had artists, and this week we pay tribute to Miriam Makeba. We spoke about, and I want to remind you to go and watch the play, The Cry of Winnie Mandela. And we spoke about all of these things that build consciousness, and in the last hour of the show, we're going to speak to another legend in South Africa that was part of that consciousness building. But I thought it was a good time for us to really reflect on the role of the artist in the society is to give us back our imagination. Thank you so much for joining us this morning on Power Breakfast. We are in for a treat this morning. We're going to be talking politics. We're going to be talking art. We're going to be talking history, but we're also going to be talking traffic.
Power traffic.
Now, trust me, everyone feels that they're about to be in for a treat this morning. After that opening, my goodness, I was getting goosebumps myself. You know what I mean?
Thank you so
it's
much
not many
for the lips.
Yeah, it's not many people that actually take their time to shine the spotlight on people who we take for granted because they are always in the spotlight. You know what I mean?
In this country, they deserve better in this country. And I said it earlier this week, and we're going to talk to Brasipo later.
I'm looking forward
day.
to that conversation
Absolutely.
later on. Yeah, let's check out what's happening in your roads at the moment. If you are traveling on the N1 northbound, just a reminder of those roadworks that are happening. That's between Grasmere and Eldorado Park, and those will be causing peak time delays in that area. If you are traveling on Jan Smuts Avenue and Hyde Park, traffic lights are out at the Winnie Mandela Drive intersection. Those traffic lights are also out as you are traveling on Bears Nodier Drive in Cresta, at Judges Avenue and Emerentia at Victory and Barry Herzog Avenue, and those will be causing major delays as you are getting out of Linden heading towards joining Barry Herzog. If you are traveling on the M1 northbound, there's some slow moving traffic as you're traveling past Boyson's approaching the Crown interchange. North of Joburg, if you're on Malibongwe Drive eastbound, there's queuing traffic as you're getting out of Cosmo City. Those delays are headed towards the River Road intersection in Kaya Sand. And remember, if you come across any further traffic incidents, tweet at Power987 Traffic. For Power Traffic, I'm Leboham Pukela.
Power traffic.
They say, cometh the hour, cometh the man. The man is here. The man is feeling powerful. My name is Baring Batsukorchas. Everybody calls me PBK, and I am your new host of Power Sports Extra. You and I are going to get together every Friday from 6 to 8 p.m. 2 good hours of having fun, having conversation, chilling, discussing sports. You know me more as a football man, a soccer man, but yeah, we're going to talk sports. We're going to talk about sports of different codes. Let's go to the rugby pitch. Let's go to the cricket oval. Let's go to the athletics track. Let's dive into the swimming pool. You and I are going going to have time to do all of that. We could be having interviews on the big stories of the day. We could be having just a walk down memory lane. We could be having a lot of things that you have not been hearing anywhere else, but you will start getting it right here on Power Sports Extra with me, Bareng Batu Gorgeous. Let's make a date.
The silence of a till that hasn't rung in a while is deafening to any business owner. That's why Telkom Business wants to unleash the hero in you with a business fusion deal. Get a versatile tablet, LTE 120 gigs anytime data, 120 gigs night surfer data, smart voice basic, plus a professional website for only 699 Rand per month. And make the till ring again. Call 10213, click telkom.co.za or go to any Telkom shop. T&C apply. Telkom, possible begins here.
At the Hatfield Motor Group, we literally wear our hearts on our sleeves. We even put our hearts on our cars. In every quote, in every service, with every trade-in valuation. Literally into every element of our business. Even our logo is in a heart. A symbol that the Hatfield Motor Group is full of heart. Our dealers' teams are ready to hear about your heart's greatest desires for a new car or a service. HatfieldGroup.co.za. Rated #1 in service.
Call Power Breakfast on 0861 987 000.
The time now is 6:19. You're on Power Breakfast with Tessa Dooms. So welcome everybody to day 5 of our new team. We have been so excited this week to bring you a new flavor to Power Breakfast. A little bit more people in the room. There are many of us guys. We are a bit of a legion here. But it's been great just getting the team to merge and gel. And we hope on the other side of the mic you have enjoyed it as well. This morning has also started off very synergized across the shows. It's a musical Friday on Power FM today. So we had Kwena earlier and he had a live band in studio. Beautiful. I hope that will be on the social media soon. So you can see what the vibe was in here. Live music is one of my favorite things to do. And I think the band was called Roots Up or something to that effect. Please just check out Kwena's show this morning. Any podcast there and any social media, you will be in for a treat. And then we have Dr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi as well this in the next session at 9 a.m. He will also be having a musical legend with him in Bishop Benjamin Dube. I'm going to say Desmond Dube. Wrong Dube there. But Bishop Benjamin Dube will be in with Dr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi for Power Talk at 9. And then we are throwing in a little bit of musical spice of our own in the third hour of the show. Stay with us for a legend. Again, Dr. Awa, guys. Sifo Hotsticks Mabusa is going to join us in the third hour of the show. So we are really having a musical meltdown today. We are being in our feelings at Power FM. We have a few more things coming up in the first hour of the show, so please stay tuned. We're going to be having a conversation about HIV and AIDS and the trends around statistics and whether or not we're getting the right statistics for the deaths around HIV AIDS in this time. I know as a country, at some point we got HIV AIDS fatigued and we didn't want to have the conversation anymore and nobody was talking about the programs. But this morning we want to bring back that conversation. And then, of course, the president's in town and we're going to deal with that in the second hour of the day. But to start off the day today, we're going to start with a conversation about elections. About a year ago, the country was buzzing with election talk. And now we see the IECs reintroducing a conversation that they started before the election a few years ago, but then kind of put into abeyance as they focused on things like the Electoral Amendment Act and electoral reforms. But now we're getting back to this conversation, which is an exciting one for me because I think we have to think through the implications of how we do our elections. How we do our elections is as important as that they happen. So we're going to start a conversation off this morning about voting via the internet, voting via virtual platforms, not necessarily the internet, but definitely virtual voting and electronic voting. How does that work? Is it possible for us? Is e-voting the future? So we start off this morning. We're going to be speaking to Michael Atkins, an election analyst. Michael, welcome to Power Breakfast.
Hi, good morning. Yes, and it certainly is a good conversation to be having.
Very glad to be having it as well. So tell me, the thoughts around e-voting, there's been these kind of floated conversations, but not actually a substantive one. The IEC wants to launch this conversation in earnest, probably a good time since we have about 18 months before we have to think about a next election again. What are some of the general perceptions around e-voting that makes this an important conversation?
Well, the idea is that e-voting would be a lot easier for voters. It would certainly allow for much easier counting and tallying of votes. And I think that is one of the concerns. There is also the worry with manual voting that maybe it's not quite as accurate. The counting is not quite as accurate as it might seem. And one of the hopes is that it might also lead to some cost savings. But of course, there are concerns about safety and hacking, so that it's quite a complicated discussion to have.
I was an election observer in Kenya in 2018, and I think it was the first time I was in a voting booth when counting was happening. And I was thinking about what does this process, look like and mean, and what's the value chain around that. And they were using not necessarily e-voting, but certainly at that point using tallying mechanisms that were electronic. And all the way through the chain, there was some kind of electronic pickup. We also have some of that electronic pickup, but here we're talking about starting it at the voting booth. And that's more in line with something like what people have in Australia, Estonia, the US notoriously also has these kinds of systems. What makes it possible for that kind of system to exist in those other countries, and why have we not taken up e-voting yet?
Look, I think being careful and cautious has been a good thing. I don't think we are behind, or I don't think there's anything wrong with our approach. The IEC has been looking at this for some time. They've been doing good research, and the technology is there. It's not difficult to create the technology. So like at the first level, for example, counting machines, where you vote as normal with a pen on a piece of paper, and they feed it through scanners which can count the votes. That's not very difficult technology. So it's more around the concerns over security and making sure that the costs and logistics are done correctly. So I think we've had a good approach of watching other countries, doing research before we leap into something and considering the implications.
Sure. I mean, the IEC has often said that their issue is trust. And that part of why they've liked the manual process, I know that when you have the counting center, there's these kind of boards that show you the process. And that part of the reason why they choose a manual process is so that when there might be disputes, you can actually take people to the actual ballots and you can recount the actual ballots. And that increases trust in the mind of the voter. What happens in a society, number one, where we have a few issues around tech? One is that we have kind of hacking issues, and we've seen, for example, some big banks getting hacked. How does the South African public wrap their head around that? But also questions just of whether or not people can, know that their vote has actually gone in there. Like when you put that ballot into the box yourself, there's a certainty about that. But if you're just pressing numbers, into a device, do you know that it's landed? And of course, the third big issue is the digital divide. And we saw it last year's election, that even when we were just dealing with those voting machines at the voting stations, that when they went off, it caused those long queues that made us all believe that we were back to 1994, but we actually weren't. We were just suffering a technological deficit. Are those not the kinds of things that really are lowering the trust in moving to e-voting?
Look, trust is the essential thing because, even if you were to cut costs or save a bit of time, an election is bigger than the exact amount of money you spend on it. So trust is actually, in my mind, one of the most critical features of an election, and the IEC has been correct to be cautious and careful around this. There is no point in having an efficient system, but a lot of voters don't believe that their vote is actually counted. because then you're actually breaking down democracy. You're not building it up. So, yes, the trust is the big question. Now, trust happens at two levels. For the IT people, and it gets very technical, there are a lot of things around the security of the voting process and the tallying and everything else. There's a lot of major questions. But then even if the technical guys have that sorted out, the ordinary people need to be able to be sure. Now, one of the methods that is used in some places internationally is that you vote electronically, you choose on a touch screen, and then it prints out a ballot for you with your vote, and you again pop that in a box. So although the counting could be done electronically, the physical ballots are also available there for audit. So that is one of the answers to trust that has come up.
So you're saying we have both happening at the same time. But then that leans into the cost question. Surely we're not cutting costs, then we're just adding costs.
Well, this is the good thing about having the conference that the IEC are having next week, that we will be hearing from people who have done research into this and that can give us those figures. What it would do, it would still save time on the counting process, but we want to hear what people have said when they've looked at the details of that.
Sure, and what you're referring to there is that next week the IEC will be hosting a 3-day conference that brings together political leaders, decision makers, business and civil society, and members of the public. And we will reflect on the outcomes of that conference because it will be focusing on e-voting in particular. But we already know that politicians haven't warmed up to the idea of e-voting. In fact, the Parliamentary Committee of Home Affairs in the past has rejected the idea of e-voting, citing fears of hacking and insufficient funds and so forth. But is there a possibility that there's also just political reasons why they're nervous?
Look, I'm not seeing any political reasons. I think the trust issues are important and necessary, but that's why the education is important, and having this kind of conference and conversation is important, because it takes time to reach a decision where we are happy with this. So I'm not seeing any political reason to go one way or another, but the natural caution, I think, is a good enough explanation.
Thank you so much, Michael. That gives us a lot of insight into this. And I'm assuming you will be at the conference next week. We know that we will be covering it, but thank you so much for giving us that insight.
Thank you.
That was Michael Atkins. He's an election analyst, and we were talking about e-voting. Let us know what your thoughts are on e-voting. Would you be comfortable putting your X not in the ballot, but on the tablet? Now, we're going to the news.
Mzansi, play Powerball and Powerball Plus for 67 million rand in total estimated jackpots this Friday, and you could make it rain lots of cash this March. That's right, play Powerball for an estimated 37 million rand and Powerball Plus for an estimated 30 million rand today. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120*7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old and play responsibly. E2 is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
Good morning. In news making headlines, NUMSA members, former employees of bus operator Tshwane Affected Operations Investments, have given the city of 25 days to respond to their demands. The workers claimed that the city has failed to honour its promise to pay retrenchment packages after terminating their services in December. In their memorandum of demands, they're calling for the city to release funds owed to Tshwane Affected Operations Investments so the retrenchment packages can be paid. Additionally, the workers are demanding the city absorb 110 former employees as station marshals after their contracts were terminated. Here's what some of the NUMSA members had to say.
City of Tshwane doesn't want to sign off our service packages. So rasokola, arna di chelta tsa patala di school fees, arna chelta tsa patala di rent, di installments arna they are due, di koloi they'll be repossessed very soon. So there's nothing that we can. What we need a fella, they must just release our money, and then after that they must just give us our jobs as they promised.
To be honest, they're going to survive. And they keep promising, before the 15, look at the packages. Till now. So they keep promising week, till now. So,
Water and Sanitation Minister Phemi Majordina has highlighted the urgent need for additional reservoirs in Gauteng to meet the demands of its growing population. The province has been grappling with ongoing water challenges, including leaky pipes, aging infrastructure, and delayed projects. Majordina pointed out that the rapid population growth in central Gauteng has outpaced existing water infrastructure, putting strain on supply systems. She's urged municipalities to be guided in addressing these issues as they are critical to service delivery.
We have advised municipality on what to do. In the light that they don't have enough funds to deal with this, we said they must enter into partnership with the business sector because the economy is growing in Gauteng, especially Johannesburg. The population is growing, and therefore their water infrastructure is just not on it. It does not cope with the situation.
More on these and other power stories at 7 o'clock.
In power traffic, if you're traveling on Douglas Drive southbound in Douglasdale, there's queuing traffic to expect as you're headed towards Bryanston. Those delays are clear just after the N1 highway bridge starting from Alexandra Avenue. If you're on Witkoppen Road eastbound as well as Lone Hill Boulevard, both routes are backed up approaching the main road intersection. Malibongwe Drive, as you're getting out of Cosmo City, is experiencing some heavy pressure between South Africa Drive and the Boundary Road intersection. And lastly, if you're traveling on the N1 southbound, as you're traveling past the Brakfontein interchange, you'll bump into that 20-minute backlogger that's headed towards the new road off-ramp.
And in your weather today, Johannesburg starts off at 19 with a high of 31. Vereeniging 19 with a high of 32. Soweto 19 with a high of 32. Kempton Park, you'll be at 19 with a high of 32 as well. Pretoria, a scorcher, 20 with a high of 33. Centurion 19 with a high of 32. And Randfontein 17 with a high of 31. That's your weather.
Power Sports.
So golf is the big story today.
Yes, Miss T, I'll have you know that Wen Yiding and Jordan Smith led the charge to share the first round lead of the Joburg Open, and this was in Gauteng yesterday. And the Chinese golfer as well as the Englishman cut at 7 under par 63 for a one-stroke lead over 5 rivals, and that includes Jaden Sharper, the only South African among the top 7. Newly crowned South African Open champion, though, Dylan Naidu shot a level par 70, while the 2022 champion Brad Bradbury of England had 71, and day two's action will continue today. In cricket news, the ICC has announced the match officials for the Champions Trophy final, where India and New Zealand will fight it out for the coveted trophy in Dubai, and this will be on Sunday. The on-field umpires are Paul Raphael as well as Richard Illingworth, and Joel Wilson is the third umpire, and fourth umpire is Kuma Tramasena, and the match referee is Ranjan Madugale. You will recall that India beat Australia by 4 wickets in an engaging contest in the first semi-final, while New Zealand went all out with the bat in a 50-run win over South Africa in the second semi-final. In football news now, Sekhukhune United have parted ways with their head coach Lihlo Nolosiema and have tasked Kaitano Tembo and Paulos Masehe to take charge of the team. Siema was sacked on the same day that he was allowed to attend the Nedbank Cup press conference ahead of their quarter-final fixture against Mamelodi Sundowns. This will be at the Lucas Moripe Stadium tomorrow. Still with football, it will be action galore in the Nedbank Cup as SuperSport will be against the Orlando Pirates. Sundowns and Sekhukhune, as I've said, and Kaizer Chiefs is away at Stellenbosch FC. And the last quarter-final fixture will see Durban City face Marumo Gallants. And the defending champions Pirates are aware of the stand challenge posed by Matsatsantsa Pitori, and this is what Coach Jose Riviero had to say.
We're coming from very tough game just a few hours ago. Our focus already is in the challenge that we're going to face on Saturday. We'll try to recover the players as good as we can tomorrow. We don't have so much time to prepare the game. I think every team right now, every coach is facing the same challenge than myself and my coaching staff to make sure that the players are again in a good situation to perform on Saturday, and that's where our mind is right now, more than analyzing individual performances. We need to, or we have to try to find the best solutions to be better than Super Sport on Saturday, and make sure that we are in the, or we have the possibility or the right, or we deserve to be in that semi-final one more time.
And my brother Mo right here in studio feels very sorry for Siema. He says he's becoming the punching bag of Sikukune. And now we move on to the UEFA Conference League, and you find out that Chelsea are on a quest to becoming the first English team to win all three European competitions following their 2-1 win against FC Copenhagen in their first leg encounter round of 16 last night. Reece James as well as Enzo Fernandez scored for the Blues, while Gabriel Pereira pulled one back with a header for the home side. Here's the Chelsea keeper, Reece James.
A tough game, an amazing atmosphere. We knew coming here wasn't going to be easy, and in the first half we found it tough to, break them down. They set up probably different to what we expected, and I think towards the second half we kind of made some changes at half time, and in the second half I feel we grew into the game. The first half was more, to stay calm, not get frustrated. That we was playing against such a deep block. In the past we've probably, got frustrated in the first half, and that probably, has been tough, going into the second half. But we stayed, we stuck to the game plan, and stayed cool.
And moving on to matters off the football pitch now, there is a proposal on the table of the World Governing Body, FIFA, to analyze a 64-team FIFA World Cup to celebrate the centenary of the FIFA World Cup in 2030. And this was spontaneously raised by a FIFA Council member in the miscellaneous agenda item near the end of the FIFA Council meeting, which was held on March 5. The idea was to acknowledge as FIFA has a duty to analyze any proposal from one of its council members. And next year's World Cup, to be hosted by Canada, Mexico, and Trumpland, will see the number of competing countries increase from 32 to 48, with the number of matches rising from 64 to 104. And finally, there's only one URC match taking place in South Africa this weekend, and that will see the Sharks welcome the Lions to the Kings Park Stadium at Tegwini Welga Banana tomorrow. And this is Power Sports on Power Breakfast, brought to you by BBK.
Power Sport.
Power Talk with Mbuyiseni Ndlozi.
The head of state speaks for a country. The head of state speaks for a nation. The head of state, when they speak at all times, that is policy. They are not supposed to draw from the dungeons of ignorance. President Trump claims not to know Lesotho of Sangomot. Chief, let's get him the chew. How can you not know Lesotho? His best friend from South Africa there. How can you claim not to know Basotho? The United States has a full diplomatic mission. An ambassador, ya Lesotho. A head of state wakes up in the morning. Arahatsi bi Basotho.
Power Talk, 9 a.m. to midday on Power 98.7. All the action packed in 180 minutes. Power Breakfast with Tessa Dooms. Weekdays 6 to 9 a.m.
The time now is 6:41, and we're going to take our first caller for the day, for our Friday. Becky from Roodepoort, you want to weigh in on our artist talk?
Yes, good morning, Tessa. Good morning, BBK, and good morning, Pukela.
Good morning,
Becky.
Good morning, brother.
Morning. Tessa, just firstly, quickly on electronic voting. I think the reason people are scared of it is it's twofold. Those who want to have elections that are not credible are scared of it because they think that electronically you should be able to account for every voter. And then you've got the other ones who are just scared of moving with time, But personally, I really think that we need to move with time.
And
because are you saying we do not have cyber security guys that can build a system, a voting system that is going to be very difficult to hack?
You know what worries me? So I remember during the days in the counting in the last election, just that screen going off in the counting center, ripples across the country. Tech is failing us.
Yeah.
Hey, that's the thing that worries me. Just that people will just be nervous all the time. But yeah, I hear you. Moving with the times is important. We can't stay here the whole time.
Yeah, just the last thing about that. I think it's because they didn't have people who test the systems regularly and all those things. I mean, when you do that, you must have a system that is tested regularly.
Sure.
But quickly,
On the
again,
artists.
Tessa, yeah, quickly on the artists. You know, unfortunately, Tessa, I think that our artists are really, really compromised. You know, the first thing they did when Gayton Mackenzie was appointed as a Minister of Arts, how many did they request to meet with him? And the reason is because they want government gigs, they want funding, they want all those things. As a result, you hardly find an artist that criticizes government. The only one that I can think of right now is Mandisi Janjis. But I can't think of any other one. Even the comedians, you know, Pokela is a comedian. I don't remember him criticizing Phala Phala, you know. Because
I've made about 100 jokes about Phala Phala. Over the past couple of years, since that thing came to light, I've made about 100 jokes about Phala Phala. I've made poetry.
That's why government is not calling you into their events.
Oh, maybe that's why I'm not getting the gigs. I must refrain from doing all of that stuff.
And Beggy, I'll have you know that Pokela right now is sitting on a chair that's stuffed with dollars.
No, thank you so much, Becky, for raising
morning,
that.
guys.
It's worth reflecting on for the rest of the show.
But also with that e-voting conversation that Beggy was speaking about, I think it's the failure of government in different departments, right? Like with the systems that we already have. So having to convince people to move and migrate towards e-voting has to start with the basic systems that people interact with every single day, i.e. the home affairs. When you go there and they say that they're offline, how can I trust that my vote, by the time I have to come and cast it, I will not go offline?
And also, you have to make sure that we're comfortable in the knowledge that nothing is going to get hacked. Just recently, the system of the weather services in the country was hacked.
Exactly.
You know? And also, you already have a situation with the past election.
Facts.
You have political leaders who believe that things must happen in big drums and stuff like that. So before you even get there, make sure that you've got a surefire way.
No, so actually, guys, I saw the drum thing in the Gambia. It's a real thing. Like, it's not even drums and ballots, nah? It's drums and marbles. So you're putting marbles into the drum of your choice. Now, in our country, so the drums in the Gambia are for each party. So you have, you know, X party's got a blue drum, Y party's got a red drum, so forth. We had 72 parties on the ballot last year. If we went to drums, there were 72 drums, guys. Ow! I can't see it happening.
But we have to band together and make it work.
Yeah, Mr.
Like drums
BBK.
and bands. You just see that. Oh, man.
We're talking sports today.
We are talking sport today. We're talking sport today simply because today, the 7th of March.
Yep.
On Power FM.
Let the drum roll, not for voting.
6 to 8.
Yeah.
This very darker than berry, sweeter than juice, young man from Chesterville, Durban, is going to be hosting the Power Sports Extra.
Power Sport Extra, Sports Roundup.
And this is going to start tonight. I'm asking you, our very powerful listeners, to join me to gather together so that we will be able to start conversations, to have people who make us forget about the miseries of voting in drums, forget about the miseries of our roads getting flooded simply because there's just a deluge because our trains are blocked. But to celebrate sport, to celebrate our athletes, to celebrate the people who give us joy. They move from Sia Kolisi and the gang, as Lego calls them. They move from Ronwen Williams and our Bafana. It is Chemba Bavuma and the Proteas as well. And it could be Akani Simbini. It could be Chachanya Smith, even though she's retired. I'm sure she's going to be giving more of expertise to the young swimmers players who also have to carry our flag going forward to international platforms. So yeah, we will gather, we will congregate, have some special guests coming up tonight. I'll tease you, it's a power couple. It's a dynamic duo power couple.
But it's March though, BBK. This thing, but last month. You are extending the lovers month.
Love happens every day in my household.
For the rest of the year.
Let's embrace it 365.
That is a jab at all of us. Where's your love?
Exactly. Where's your... So this is a power couple in sport?
Power couple in sport.
Okay.
The man is known very well. The lady is also known, but I don't like people referring to her as the wife to the husband. She is a formidable force in her own right.
Okay.
Yeah, super interesting. But this week has also been such a filled week when it comes to sports, right? There's been a lot of football. There's been cricket. I know that there's a golf tournament that we'll touch on in a bit. But what were some of the highlights that you guys had regarding sports
my
this
highlight
week?
is easy. Everybody in the country knows my highlight.
7
up.
Oh,
7
Lord.
up. 7 up. 7 up. 7 up.
It was on
Arsenal.
Tuesday.
Yeah, guys,
It was
still
on
this
Tuesday.
week.
Yeah.
But also, you must understand, guys, as Arsenal fans,
Yes.
we have had years of disappointments, just at the brink of all of that. And a few weeks ago, my heart was so sore watching Arsenal kind of, flop just when Liverpool gives gaps. So we needed Arsenal to show us that they still can, without strikers, by the way. We are in a striker crisis, just crisis.
And there's also a cricket version of Arsenal, which are the Proteas.
Oh my word.
They choked
Just
what
on,
happened?
yeah, just on the verge of every single tournament. You know that the Proteas are going to be doing what they do best.
The C word.
Yeah.
And it's the third time they are doing it now. Last year in the final, they lost to India. And it's the second time they're losing in the semi-finals now. And it's something that we have to watch out. What is going to happen? Because when they decided to start this process, it was a 4-year process with the coaches given a carte blanche to select as many players as possible to create a bigger pool for the players. This was going to be a halfway stop with this tournament. Don't forget, the World Cup is coming to the country in 2027. So does Rob Walter stay? Does the bowling coach stay? There's going to be a serious review that Enoch Nkwe and his board at CSA are supposed to be
many
doing.
problems, and everyone just wants to say bavuma, bavuma, bavuma. No,
This is the one time it's not Temba.
Yeah.
Siyathemba ukuthi one day sizovuma.
I don't know if anyone knows this, but the hottie, LeBron James, has gone over the 50,000 career points mark. I don't know what that means, but...
Look at you treating your head.
What I love about you is the honesty, babes. You said,
I know it's a
know
highlight.
there's a hot man who did a good thing,
That's all
but
I
we don't know why.
The hottie
Love
has
it.
done it. That's a big deal, right, BBK?
It is most definitely a big deal. But what I love about South Africans and basketball, it's one of the fastest growing sports in the country.
Love it.
And when I struggle to sleep, which I have to force myself now that you wake up so early, around about 2 a.m., you see how Twitter is abuzz. People engaging, talking, watching, and living basketball. But we have a listener from Kenya, right? And Kenya becomes even more relevant now because one of our very own, May second, Penny McCarthy, is now the coach, of the Kenya national team.
News.
We are spreading our wings. He's joining a whole host of South African coaches. I mean, if you look in Tanzania, you've got Fatu Davids. You go up to Morocco, you've got Rulani Mukwena. And there's quite a few players who are moving northwards where South African soccer players are putting their footprint.
Yeah, are any of the basketballers in South Africa, since it is a fast-growing sport, hot?
Mpumi?
South Africa, yeah, I've seen a few. I can't say I know their names yet.
You don't need to know their
but
names.
Nah, I don't.
Their physiques are enough.
What I love about you is that you understand. I've seen a few.
Tall, dark, and handsome.
But Mr. BBK, we want to wish you well. Big Brother K, we want to wish you well in your journey with the sports show. We know you're going to slay it. We've heard you over the years. And we know that when the Sharks and the Lions perform, you are going to have given them all the uvuma because we need the Lions to beat them.
Well, I'm a Durban boy. The Sharks are going to swallow them in the
So
Shark
you and I
Tank.
meet on Monday.
Thank you
we
very
meet
much.
on Monday.
Thank you. Let's get out tonight at 6 to 8. This will be Power Sport Extra with your very own Dark Beauty, Baring Bachu Gorgeous.
Power traffic.
A very good morning to you. Let's check out what's happening in your roads at the moment. If you're traveling on the N1 South, you can expect queuing traffic as usual. Delays are between the Centurion area from the Brakfontein interchange and the new road off-ramp in Midrand. That's if you are in four ways on Vidkorpen Road eastbound, heavy backlogger between Monte Casino and Main Road. You can also expect delays on Lone Hill Boulevard eastbound. Those delays are from the Winnie Mandela Drive intersection. You can expect them as you're traveling towards the Crestwood Drive intersection. In Cosmo City, Malibongwe Drive eastbound is slow between South Africa and the River Road intersection. If you are in Bromhof and traveling on CR Swart Drive eastbound, traffic is backed up in that area with delays that are just under 10 minutes as you're headed towards Malibongwe Drive. And remember, if you come across any further traffic incidents, tweet at Power987 Traffic. For Power Traffic, I'm Lebohang Pukela.
Power Traffic. Power 98.7 weekends. All your favorite hit music all day long. The best of the 80s, 90s, and now.
I know you wanna be the main one.
If it isn't a hit, we don't play it. This is what our weekends are made of. Power 98.7. Now we're talking.
Power Breakfast with Tessa Dooms. Weekdays 6 to 9 a.m.
The time now is 6:53, and we promised you a story about HIV and HIV deaths. The Medical Research Council has been looking into HIV deaths over the last few years, and particularly a study that was done about HIV deaths in the period around April 2018. We have with us Dr. Pamela Groenewald. She's a specialist scientist at the South African Medical Research Council to tell us about this anomaly that they have found in the HIV death reporting. Welcome, Dr. Pamela Groenewald, to the Power Breakfast Show. Tell us a little bit about what this study meant to accomplish and what it has produced in terms of results with this anomaly that you found.
Good morning, and for inviting me, and good morning to your listeners. Yes, so the study, study was done to validate the causes of death that are reported on the death notification forms and that are used to produce our official cause of death data. Now, we've always known that there's been under-reporting of HIV deaths, but we've never known exactly by how much. So what we did was we compared the causes reported on official death certificates with data that we gathered from medical records, forensic reports, and verbal autopsy interviews. And then we compared those, and we found that there was poor agreement overall. 36.9% of those causes agreed between the two sets of data. For over 15,000 deaths were linked, the records and the official notifications. And we found significant underreporting of HIV.
And so the discrepancy here is quite a high one, Dr. Groenewald. We're talking about a difference. We're talking about a difference here between like 4% or so, and you were saying it was as high as 23% in 2018. That discrepancy seems quite high, and I know that there are these underlying causes versus what you're calling the main cause. So HIV, you're saying, is the main cause, but somebody is going to present with TB, for example, and if they die, TB might be the thing that is put as their cause of death. I think that's what you were checking for, right?
Yes. So that's what's happened is doctors are reporting the immediate cause of death, like TB or pneumonia or diarrhea or whatever it might be, and not reporting HIV on the death notification form. And that's a big problem because the cause of death data is used by the health department for planning, and it identifies the leading causes of death so that one can prioritize diseases and then plan and target interventions appropriately. And if HIV is ranking 5 and that makes a big difference.
People may though ask Dr. Groenewald, how do you know for sure that HIV is the cause of death? Because somebody may have HIV but be dying of TB And that relationship, is it causal? Is it always causal? And is it always clear to say that if somebody has HIV, that whatever they die of as a symptom or as another underlying cause, that that's actually related to the two? Or is there a possibility that you might have it wrong, that in fact it was about TB and that TB wasn't caused by HIV, for example?
Well, we did a very, very, very intensive review of the medical records, and we went back to them because we were rather surprised at the high proportion that came up as HIV and AIDS, and to check that we hadn't, reported being too free with deciding that it was HIV.
So, Dr. Groenewald, your line is a little bit shaky. So I'll just let you know if we've missed you a little bit. So we've missed you there when you've said that you've made sure you have not been a little bit free.
Yeah, so we reviewed those records to make sure that we hadn't diagnosed HIV when we shouldn't have.
Mm-hmm.
And we looked for things like CD4 counts, for viral loads, etc.
Sure.
Yeah.
And that's probably the biggest teller, because you know that when a count is particularly high, that a person's tendency towards more illnesses and related illnesses will be higher.
Yeah, the viral load and the CD4 count, if that's low, then obviously the same thing applies. And there is we found this very strong link between TB and HIV, with TB being the immediate cause in 45% of deaths in people with HIV. And in the TB deaths, 63% of those occurred in individuals with HIV.
Sure.
So there is a very strong association between the two, yeah.
So, Dr. Groenewald, there's also a link here that you're drawing between the underreporting and its consequences, and one of them is around the funding in these areas of research. And we know there's now also another story coming out around PEPFAR, and PEPFAR has been funding a lot of things around the HIV/AIDS space. What are your concerns about what the underreporting might mean for the South African government's now new interventions around trying to stop the gap that has been left by the U.S. Funding, drain, delay, possibly never coming back? What are the possible implications?
Yeah, they're serious, I think. Our recommendations are, they sort of reinforce the need for integrated healthcare strategies addressing both HIV and AIDS, and that one needs to strengthen finding, follow-up, prevention and treatment of HIV and TB. But, now that we have this gap of, I think it's 17% of the funding, it's going to be difficult, I think, to do that unless, the government can step in and make a plan.
And so having accurate reporting will mean having an accurate response, and the urgency will be understood better, because, again, that gap between 4% and 23% is quite a scary one. But thank you so much for highlighting this and giving us a bit more clarity in this. That's Dr. Pamela Groenewald. She's the specialist scientist at the South African Medical Research Council. It's the top of the hour now for the 7 a.m. news.
Power News.
The top stories: NUMSA members give the city of 25 days to respond to their demands, and 7 Chinese nationals to be sentenced for human trafficking and child labor.
World Rugby Sevens Challenge in Cape Town, and Sundowns are ready to rumble in the Nedbank Cup, and Giovanni Infantino says the expansion of the World Cup will not affect football quality. You and I will get together for this and more at the bottom of the hour.
A very good morning. I'm Nompumelelo Ngubeni. NUMSA members, the former employees of bus operator Tshwane Affected Operations Investment, have given the city of 25 days to respond to their demands. The workers claim that the city has failed to honour its promise to pay retrenchment packages after terminating their services in December. In their memorandum of demands, they're calling for the city to release funds owed to the Tshwane Affected Operations Investment so the retrenchment packages can be paid. Additionally, the workers are demanding the city absorb 110 former employees as station marshals after their contracts were terminated. Here's what some of the NUMSA members had to say.
City of Tshwane doesn't want to sign off our service packages. So rasokola, arna di chelta tsa patala di school fees, arna chelta tsa patala di rente, di installments arna they are due, di koloi they'll be repossessed very soon. So there's nothing that we can. I want to know what we need. They must just release our money, and then after that, they must just give us our jobs as they promised.
To be honest, they're going to survive, and they keep promising. Promise before the 15, look at the packages. Till now, so they keep promising week till now. So,
in other news, Water and Sanitation Minister Phemi Majodina has highlighted the urgent need for additional reservoirs in Gauteng to meet the demands of its growing population. The province has been grappling with ongoing water challenges, including leaky pipes, aging infrastructure, and delayed projects. Majodina pointed out that the rapid population growth in central Gauteng has outpaced existing water infrastructure, putting strain on supply systems. She has urged municipalities to be guided in addressing these issues as they are critical to service delivery.
We have advised municipality on what to do. In the light that they don't have enough funds to deal with this, we said they must enter into partnership with the business sector because the economy is growing in Gauteng, especially Johannesburg. The population is growing, and therefore their water infrastructure is just not on it. It does not cope with the situation. However, the presidential intervention team in eThekwini might be a good thing to come and bring it here in Johannesburg so that they don't work alone. They identify strategic stakeholders that may assist them to go forward. Otherwise, there is no infrastructure in Gauteng when it comes to water.
7 Chinese nationals are scheduled to be sentenced later this morning at the Gauteng High Court. The individuals were convicted on charges relating to human trafficking and child labour. The charges also include failing to register with the compensation fund, not declaring their business operations, and not keeping accurate financial records. Additionally, they neglected to submit earning returns, pay necessary assessments, and ensure a safe working environment for their employees. Employment and Labour spokesperson Teboho Tejane says the Deputy Minister of Police will be present at the sentencing.
At 9 o'clock in the morning, Deputy Minister Jomo Sibia will be attending the sentencing proceedings of the 7 Chinese nationals found guilty of human trafficking and child labour. The 7 Chinese nationals were found guilty on 160 counts. The Department of Employment and Labour working for you.
Taking a look at your financial indicators, the rand is trading at 18 rand 29 to the US dollar, 23 rand 57 to the pound, 19 rand 73 to the euro. Gold is trading at $2,917.12 a fine ounce. Brent crude oil is at $69.72 a barrel. A partly cloudy day is forecast in Gauteng. Johannesburg temperatures are at 19 and 31 degrees, 20 and 33 in Pretoria, 19 and 32 in Vereeniging. Recapping the top story in Power News this hour. NUMSA members, former employees of the bus operator Tshwane Affected Operations Investment, have given the city of Tshwane 5 days to respond to their demands.
In power traffic, we start off in Lone Hill. If you're traveling on Lone Hill Boulevard eastbound, there's a crash that's happened that's near the Crestwood Drive intersection, and that's what's causing that pressure. That's in both directions between Main Road and the Winnie Mandela Drive intersections. If you're traveling on Kingfisher Drive northbound, that's in 4 ways as well. There's some queuing traffic from Vidkorpen Road. Those delays are headed towards the Winnie Mandela Drive intersection. Leslie Avenue eastbound is very slow as well. That's as you're approaching Winnie Mandela. If you're traveling on Malibongwe Drive in Straydom Park, there's queuing traffic approaching the CR Swart Drive intersection. If you're in the city of Tshwane and traveling on Eskiampatlele, or if you're traveling on Paul Kruger Street South, both those routes are backed up approaching the Tshwane CBD.
Power News. On FM, online, and DSTV channel 889. This is Power 98.7.
Power Breakfast is proudly brought to you by Telkom Business.
Possible begins here.
And now you're listening to Power Breakfast with Tessa Dooms, weekdays 6 to 9 a.m. Taking your calls on 0861 987 000.
The time now is 7:07. Welcome to Power Breakfast with Tessa Dooms. We are in the second hour of the morning. Remember that if you want to chat with us about anything that we've spoken about this morning or anything that's happening the week, our line in the studio is 0861 987 000. If you are on the social media streets with us, we see your tweets. We're trying to respond as fast as we can and as well as we can. Use the hashtag Power Breakfast. On Twitter, you can find us on Power FM 987. Facebook, you can find us on Power FM. And we're waiting for your voice notes on WhatsApp line 083 303 7093. Keep them short, keep them punchy, keep them 30 seconds so that we can get in as many voice notes as possible. We have some great voice notes this week. If you're listening to us on the normal wireless, Pretoria and Joburg, you can catch us on 98.7, Joburg South and the West Rand 103.6, Vereniging 104.4, East Rand and Ekurhuleni 107.2. If you're home and you're catching us on DSTV or on your app, it is channel 889 and online streaming www.powerfm.co.za. We have the last day of our live stream, our visual live stream, if you want to see my radio face. And you can just look on our social media platforms. You'll be able to see the link to the YouTube streaming that we're doing today in our studio. In the first hour of the show, we covered some interesting topics. We covered ground around e-voting, and we heard from Becky there saying maybe it's time for South Africa to catch up with the times. Maybe we should stop being so afraid of each other and afraid we're going to cook the books, and we're afraid that the tech is going to fail us or the hackers are going to win, and we need to figure out how we are going to catch up with the times and use electronic voting. And I mean, I think it's a good point that Becky makes. We're talking about fourth industrial revolution all the time. We're talking about AI all the time. Yet when we come to this fundamental part of our democracy, voting, we are all so scared that the tech will fail us. And so at some point we are going to have to get over that and think about how we move into the future. And then we also spoke about in our 650 feature, we spoke about the topic of HIV/AIDS and the underreporting of deaths, particularly a study that was done by the South African Medical Research Council, where they said in 2018, in April of 2018, the period of reporting in that quarter, they found a huge discrepancy. So what was reported by the government was about 4% of deaths that were related to HIV, but they found actually that it was about 23% of deaths in that period were because of HIV. Why is this topic important in the year of our Lord 2025? I think for two reasons. One is the one that was mentioned by Dr. Pamela Groenewald, that if we don't know the real facts, we can't have a good response. We can't have an urgent response. We can't have a comprehensive response. And I think that's really important. But the other one for me is that I think we haven't taken HIV seriously enough in the last 10 years or so. Maybe it's because we were distracted by the introduction of the COVID pandemic and all of that, and that just, overtook us. But also, I can't think of the last time I heard of us talking about testing and the importance of testing, that we've spoken about ARVs and making sure that the ARVs are available to everybody. I'm really not sure that we're taking it as seriously as we did in the early 2000s, the late 90s, when the TAC was doing all of that work, and when we had Soul City and Love Life, and there was all of this energy. I think we need to get the energy up again if we're talking about deaths upward of 20% in this area. So if you have calls and you have contributions to make towards that or any other topic, the president is still in town. Let's keep talking about that.
Call Power Breakfast on 0861 987 000.
On the line with us, we have Tsepo from Pretoria. Tsepo, welcome to Power Breakfast. What's your comment? Tsepo, are you with us in the 18 area? So Tsepo's not with us on the line yet. Oh, there we go. Tsepo's on the line with us now, yes? Welcome to Power Breakfast? No? Sometimes, guys, you guys call in and then we don't hear you. So hopefully we'll get Tsepo back. But if you do have calls that you want to make or you have comments that you want to make, even your voice notes, it would be great to hear from you. Yesterday I was seeing on the Twitter streets that somebody tagged myself, BBK and Lebo, saying that we were spot on with the president's visit, that when we were saying that the president may be shocked. So the president did comment and said that he is seeing that the cities in Gauteng are in dire straits and that he's very worried about them. We do have a caller now, Masalad from Ivory Park. Sorry for keeping you waiting there. Welcome to Power Breakfast.
Good morning, Honorable Dooms.
Good morning, Masalad. I'm fine. This honorable thing of yours is starting to stick. I'm being called honorable in the streets now.
Yes, we are honorable members of the country of South Africa.
Absolutely, and of the Power Breakfast show. What's your comment?
Of the Power family.
Absolutely.
Yes. I want to comment about Honorable President Ramaphosa.
Mm-hmm.
He says he's shocked about Josie. I'm shocked about his statement of being shocked,
We're always shocked.
This guy. Look, to be honest, our communities are a manifestation of the corruption of our leaders.
Right.
I don't know. Me, I'm the type of person that once in a while, before I go to sleep, I will do self-introspection. I don't know if our political leaders do that thing, they just look at what they are doing and how their actions are really affecting the country,
Yeah. I mean, I've always thought about, what did it feel like to be the president of a country like ours, where when you walk through the streets of the country, you can really feel that something is wrong. Would I be able to sleep at night? I wonder about that. But thank you so much for raising that.
Keep in mind, sorry, just to a parting shot, keep in mind this honorable member is a billionaire. We never expected him to come here and be corrupt, but he's just using the country's resources at his apparel.
One of my favorite movies, Remember the Titans. There's a line in it that says, "Attitude reflects leadership." And so sometimes when we see the attitude in the streets, when we see the attitude in the corridors of government workers, that attitude is a reflection of the leadership. What do they say? The fish rots from the head.
And the Honorable Ndlozi says association brings assimilation.
Ish.
So this means Ramaphosa is associated with corrupt people. That's why he is a corrupt president. Ish. I hope he hears this, and it shocks him.
Yeah. No, I think we're definitely hoping to hear from the president and what he has taken away from today, or at least from yesterday, when he met with the Gauteng leadership. We are going to be talking about what his movements are going to be like today. And it's going to be good to hear from the president what some of those key takeaways are from these visits. Because if we're just having visits for the sake of visits, that's no good at all. But we want to know, what are the next steps? What will be happening after this? Next week is going to have to be about reflection for the president rather than just, kind of the walkabouts that we have been seeing. We are going to talk about what the president's schedule is going to look like a little bit today. He's going to be having a focus on the city of Joburg. Yesterday was Gauteng, and we saw Premier Panyaza Lusufi really talking to us about the fact that he sees this as an opportunity to make sure that particularly the three big metros get the attention that it deserves from government, from national government. The district development model must kick in. And we saw them going to the city of Ekurhuleni yesterday, particularly where officials were saying that they're working as hard as possible. Today, in the city of Joburg in the morning, the president will be doing a focus there. But in the afternoon, he'll be meeting with civil society groups. Civil society groups have asked to meet with him because in the last year or so, there's been an upsurge in real civil society participation around this issue. The Joburg Crisis Alliance has formed, which is an alliance that brings together different organizations, including the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation, that says we need to form a residence-based, city-based, civil society-based coalition to push the city in the right direction. So many people will be there in this meeting today, but also young people will be represented, and we're going to talk to one of those young people now. We have on the line with us Moeketsi from the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation. He's the Education and Training Officer. Moeketsi, thank you for joining us on Power Breakfast. So nice to speak to you on the radios. I know Moeketsi in real life, guys. I'm not even going to pretend. I'm not even going to pretend. When I see Moeketsi, my face lights up and we high five. One of the young activists in this country that takes seriously engaging with people in local communities. So this afternoon, Moeketsi, you're going to be part of a delegation that's going to this meeting with the president and civil society. Tell us more.
Yes, good morning, Tessa, to your team, and of course your VVIPs, the power listeners. So really, this afternoon engagement with the president is just to really appraise them really on really like the issues that are happening in Johannesburg, but really from a civil society perspective, right? Earlier on you mentioned his visit, and of course it's been covered by colleagues in the media. But I think, our engagement with him is to really just show him the dire state of Johannesburg and, of course, of Gauteng in its entirety. So, emphasizing that really the city is in a crisis, right? And really that, all of us, we all sleep in a municipal ward. And really whether we have water, electricity, or we're even able to walk or drive safely down our streets that get us to our homes is really as a result of the decisions and actions of the people that, he was speaking with yesterday in the Metro Center. Tessa?
Sure. And Moeketsi, we know that when presidents come into town, and we're still making jokes about the fact that he's coming to a town he lives in, but when they come into town, there is this tendency to kind of roll out the red carpet, show in the best of, curate the experience. But you work with particularly young people in areas like Lenasia South. So tell us a little bit about what you think the president may not be seeing that you want to make him aware of, particularly in areas that you work in with young people. I know you guys have done particular projects around libraries and revitalizing those. There's a big issue around particularly Joburg City Library, the big one in town. What are some of the things you want to highlight for him from the ground and from the young people of the city?
I think it's really like the quality of our lives on the ground. And what I mean by that is really, our young people, even currently we're running civic education workshops that are focusing on anti-corruption in communities. And really what's coming out of that, those engagements, and even last year's engagements around our civic education, is the dire state of our communities in the context of, service delivery. For example, we're in Orangey Farm this past week, and young people, they were complaining about, the continuous water cuts and that they're experiencing every day, right? Their street lights are not working. So really everyday things that impact on their lives. So really is to have a conversation with him to say, these are what young people are saying in our communities, and these are also the solutions that they are proposing, because young people are not just complaining for the sake of complaining or highlighting these issues, but they're also coming up with localized solutions, and young people are also organizing themselves in their communities to say, we are the ones we've been waiting for. We're not going to wait for government officials or city officials or whichever official, right? We also have to lay a helping hand and work collaboratively with the powers that be.
Sure. I'm going to bring in one of our callers, Marvel from Shoshanguve. And Marvel was saying that, this focus on the cities is great, but what about people in the outskirts of the country? And so you are talking about the outskirts of Johannesburg. But Marvel, what's your view on people who are living in even further places than the city of Joburg? Marvel? Okay, so Marvel's not with us quite yet. So Moeketsi, I'm going to come back to you just in terms of this engagement with the president this afternoon. Will you have an opportunity to pose these questions directly to the president? And if so, again, I asked this question yesterday because our power listeners have given us a task this week to really say to the officials that we talk to, the politicians that we talk to, what are the timelines? Are there some time-bound requests that you have of the president? You're speaking about water issues, we're speaking about electricity, but what are some of the demands that you go into this meeting with today?
Well, I mean, I think, one of the key demands is really just, so one of them is really that, the city, particularly the city of Johannesburg, where I reside in and some of our youth clubs are located, is that the city needs to really start opening up their meetings that are also meant for the public, for the young people to go in there and contribute. And I mean here, like your Section 79 meetings, but also we need to get a clear understanding of what is going on with regards to the budget of the city, right? Because for some reason, as citizens, as young people, we're not allowed to go in there and to see what are some of the key items or line items, so that, for example, we can even start curtailing the projects or expenditures that are really just fruitless and are not even going to benefit the young people on the ground. So these are some of the key demands, and of course also informed by the work that the Johannesburg Crisis Alliance has been doing, informed by the contributions made in the past 5 summits, right, where citizens have really just been, detailing, each and every issue that their everyday lived experiences in communities. So, some of the key demands are really around that poor service delivery, budgeting, but really collaboration with the city, because currently it's non-existent.
So now we do have Marvel with us from Shoshanguve. Marvel, join the conversation with us this morning on Power Breakfast.
Tessa Dooms, the honorable members, thank you for taking
Sorry
my
for
call.
keeping you waiting there, honorable member.
No, not a problem. Look, I come from Venda. Hamuli is the place where I was born.
Sure.
We have a whole range of issues there, from water problems. The roads are close to non-existent. When it's raining now, the buses can't travel. People can't go to work. And if you will know that in the rural area, if you have a job, either a teacher or a nurse or in some government department, people don't have job. 80% of the people, they are not working. So if people are unable to can at least go to the very same jobs that they are trying to, support the whole community with, how do you expect the community to flourish? For example,
sorry, continue, Mama.
Yeah. I wanted to say that in Waterfall, there is no water. But we have dams, big dams. Vonandoni dams, there's Giyani, there's big dams around us. But we don't have water, not because there's lack of dams or whatever, because infrastructure has not been maintained. If you don't have 30 to 80,000 rands to have a borehole, you will never have water in your yard, which is really unfair to the ordinary people who are surviving on grants. So what I'm saying is that our issues hardly get attention because we don't get big media attention when we have problems. Only those areas where, like, for example, in Johannesburg, where there's no water, it will be on all media platforms, including the all television channels. It's a crisis for Johannesburg, but not for the rural areas.
So, Marvel,
yes.
I'm going to ask Moketsi to do you a favor. And Moketsi, in your meeting today with the president, please ask him, is he going to do this for other areas of South Africa? Is this a once-off just for the city of Johannesburg and for Gauteng because it's big metros and big money? Or is he going to make sure this oversight happens elsewhere? So, Moketsi, do we have your word? You're going to take Marvel's message forward to the president today?
You have my word that this line item will also be put to table around to address, of course, communities outside of Gauteng. And I'm happy to come back on Power FM to account on what the president said and also my own actioning of that promise.
Thank you so much. That's Moketsi Karela. Is the Education and Training Officer at the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation. Now we go to the traffic.
Power traffic.
Thanks, Tessa. A very good morning to you over in the city of Tshwane. If you're traveling on the N1 southbound, you can expect queuing traffic as you're passing Linwood Road, heading towards the Rigel Avenue exit. I'm also seeing delays as you're traveling on Rigel Avenue northbound. That pressure is coming from Delmas Road, approaching the N1 highway. Garsfontein Road westbound is slow, approaching Solomon Mahlangu. There's also a 15-minute backlog that's on Solomon Mahlangu Drive as you're traveling past the Atterbury Road, heading towards the Garsfontein Road intersection. Over in Queenswood, if you're traveling on Gordon and Kilnerton Road southbound, you can expect delays approaching Pretoria Street. If you're traveling on Jan Shoba Street, you can also expect slow-moving traffic approaching the Duxbury Road intersection. That's in Hatfield. Do expect a queue for about 15 minutes in that area. From Stanza Bupape, heading past that Duxbury Road intersection. Linwood Road eastbound also, as you're traveling past the Pretoria University, is very slow at the moment. Those delays can be expected, and they're just under 20 minutes at the moment. And remember, if you come across any further traffic incidents, tweet at Power987 Traffic. For Power Traffic, I'm Lebohang Pukela.
Power Traffic.
Midnight Oil has a very distinct smell for business owners. Those who know will say it's got grit and graft. That's why Telkom Business wants to unleash the hero in you with the Business Fusion deal. Get a Packard Bell Montenero laptop, LTE 120 gigs anytime data, 120 gigs night surfer data, Smart Voice Basic, plus a professional website for only 749 Rand per month. Call 10213, click telkom.co.za or go to any Telkom shop. TNC apply. Telkom. Possible begins here.
This market update is proudly brought to you by DSO Consulting Group. Truth, trust, results.
Power Markets.
For our market update today, we have Patrick Matidi. He's from Aluwani Consulting. He's the head of multi-asset strategies. Patrick, welcome. We're starting today with a big story, really. Liseka, led by Lincoln Marley, has done a big acquisition, and it's around a prepaid meter, electricity meter story.
Yeah, good morning, and thanks for having me. Indeed, we saw that announcement come through yesterday. They've made an acquisition of an entity called Recharger, about 500 million rand to be paid for in cash and shares.
$1 billion, half a bill.
500 million, about 500 million rand. Yeah, so it is quite sizable. Lesaka is a payment business. It's already put out. They've got 2 units, one a consumer unit, and also sort of a value-added services unit. So the consumer units, they offer credit loans on the transactional banking, microfinance, and then the value-added services, which is where this acquisition is part of. It's almost like a payment business, where they offer prepaid payment services to consumers out there. So it is really a significant milestone for the business. The business has been transforming itself. You may recall, they were part of a net UPS. That was part of the SASA payments process way back in the day. So they are nicely and slowly transforming themselves into a multifaceted financial services business.
Yeah, no, it seems like it's growing into quite a giant. Patrick, your line is a little bit shaky, so if you can just keep your phone close to you and maybe just stand stable. I don't know if it's going in and out a little bit. But the other story I wanted us to cover was the preference capital story. We have here that there's a RMB is going to be investing into PrefCap in order for it to support local businesses. Are we talking here about small businesses, SMMEs? What do we mean by local businesses in this deal, and what are the quantums?
Yeah, so RMB as part of their reporting, but also in partnership with PrefCap, which is a SME funder, a private entity, announced a 450 million rand funding solution. So essentially, PrefCap will roll out lending solutions to small and medium enterprises. So you may recall, from different platforms, the SME sector is getting a lot of attention, where a lot of the financial services entities are looking to see how they can best support them, as they recognize that is an engine for growth, especially given the high unemployment rate in South Africa.
Well, I think that it's a good time to be in the financial services space. In the last few stories we've covered, maybe Woolworths should be thinking about financial services as opposed to clothing, but we've run out of time. If you can just give us our indicators for the morning.
Yeah, so it's still fairly gloomy out there. The U.S. markets were down, again, all to do with Trump and tariffs and how the markets are digesting that. And that is spilling over into Asia, where we are seeing that market also on the back foot, which means the likes of 10 cents are down, which bodes bad for South Africa when we open with regards to 10 cents, so with Naspers. But yesterday on our side, we were fairly up about 0.6%, largely driven higher by the platinum sector. We're seeing rhodium, sort of up quite nicely, especially on what we're seeing as, I guess, some relief in terms of EVs from a regulatory point of view. So that's supporting the platinum group metals. And then the currency also fairly strong at 18.14, largely on the back of a weaker dollar, given those concerns with regards to the U.S.
Thank you. That's Patrick Matidi, Alowane, Head of Multi-Asset Strategies. And that was your market update.
This market update was proudly brought to you by DSO Consulting Group. Truth, trust, results.
Then DSO Consulting Group is an authentically African and globally wide management consulting firm which unlocks development by empowering institutions that enable Africa's development. We improve the performance of towns and cities, private and public organizations, as well as local and regional economies. Our solutions to complex management problems are end-to-end and evidence-based. Visit dsoconsulting.co.za for more info. DSO Consulting Group. Truth, trust, results.
Time for our 7:13 news headlines.
Thanks, Tessa. Good morning. The National Energy Regulator of South Africa has expressed a serious concern over the increasing incidence of petroleum pipeline tampering and product theft. According to the regulator, these criminal activities pose significant safety and environmental risks as well as economic losses to the country. NERSA says stricter security measures and law enforcement interventions are needed to curb the illegal shipment of fuel from pipelines. They're urging communities and industry players to report any suspicious activities to prevent further damage and disruptions. Spokesperson Charles Hlabela.
The fuel price will increase by 5.23 cents per litre in the 2025-26 financial year, followed by a 3.80 cents per litre increase in the 2026-27 financial year. The tariffs are set for a period of 2 years, from the 1st of April 2025 to the 31st of March 2026, and from the 1st of April 2026 to the 31st of March 2027. In arriving at its decision, the energy regulator considered a variety of factors, including public interest and regulatory certainty, as well as key issues that include pipeline tampering and product theft incidents, the multi-product pipeline project, market analysis of volume risk sharing, economic impact assessment, and smoothing of the tariff trajectory.
The National Treasury has outlined its measures to streamline some municipal grant systems to reduce administrative burdens in municipalities. It comes after several municipalities recorded over 500 million in unspent expenditures despite unrendered critical services. Following the proposal, EFF in Gauteng has criticized the ANC-led Emfuleni local municipality for its underspending, which it says is a betrayal to Emfuleni residents. The municipality returned some 600 million rand in unspent municipal infrastructure grant to the National Treasury. The party says this despite the residents of Emfuleni continuing to suffer from various issues, including deteriorating infrastructure.
The municipal infrastructure grant allocation was intended to fund critical projects aimed at improving roads, water supply and sewage systems. Yet, Emfuleni's leadership inexplicably failed to utilize these funds, further exacerbating the suffering of the people. The municipality's inability to spend these funds is symptomatic of the deep-seated corruption, negligence and incompetence entrenched in Emfuleni's ANC-led administration.
More on these and other power stories at 8 o'clock.
In power traffic, if you are traveling on the N1 South in the city of Tshwane, you can expect delays between the Proof Plus interchange and Rigel Avenue. Over in Centurion, if you are traveling on Vieira Road eastbound, there's queuing traffic to expect with delays that are just under 20 minutes from the R101. That pressure is heading all the way up towards the Snake Valley Road intersection. If you are traveling on Escort as well as Lenchen Avenue eastbound, that's also in Centurion, traffic is heavily backed up with a 45-minute delay from Tienas Vanikerk heading all the way up towards the Sycamore Street intersection. Westbound delays can also be expected also on Lenchen Avenue as you're headed past the Sycamore Street intersection from the R101.
And And in your weather, Johannesburg starts off at 19, ends the day at 31. For Vereeniging, a low of 19, a high of 32. Soweto, a low of 19, a high of 32 as well. And Kempton Park, repeating that, a low of 19, a high of 32. Pretoria gets very hot, starting off at 20 with a high of 33. Centurion, 19 with a high of 32. And lastly, Randfontein, starting at 17 with a high of 31. That is your weather.
Power Sport.
So quarterfinal weekend is here for the Nedbank Cup.
Yes, Miss T. At first they were 32, now they are down to 8. And 3 Nedbank Cup quarterfinal matches will take place tomorrow. Mamelodi Sundowns will look to convert their league form to the Cup when they face Sekhukhune United at the Lucas Masterpieces Moripe Stadium. This will be tomorrow night at 8. And freshly minted Betway Premiership coach of the month, Miguel Cardoso, says he is concerned that some of his Sundowns players might be suffering some fatigue.
Obviously that the impact of the fatigue in the players can happen in a different way. Players, not all of them, they have the same pattern of physical activity during the matches. As I said already in some press conferences, the ones that suffer most are the ones that have to do, or usually they do very explosive actions. Because the fatigue conditions a little bit the capacity to repeat high-intensity efforts. So it's normal that the players that have that pattern of activity and that their game depends on that capacity, they feel more affected eventually.
Isn't the fatigue issue a management issue, though? This is the team being poorly managed. If you have multiple players like this, where's the physio? Where are the coaches here? They should take responsibility for team fatigue.
Besides, the Brazilians have got a battalion of players. They've got like 3 squads that can contest
Absolutely,
and win any
they've
competition.
bought a legion.
Maybe that's Cardoso pulling in his excuses too early. In other matches, Kaizer Chiefs will continue their pursuit of a first piece of silverware since 2015 when they traveled to Steve Barker's Stellies at 6. Defending champions Orlando Pirates will press on with their challenge for a third successive Nedbank Cup away to SuperSport United in Polokwane in the first game of the day at 3 p.m. And the last quarter-final fixture will see Motsepe Foundation Championship side Durban City taking on Marumo Gallants on Sunday. In world news, World Football Governing Body FIFA confirmed it will review a proposal to expand the 2030 World Cup to a whopping 64 teams to mark the centenary of football's showpiece tournament. The 2026 World Cup, which will be shared between the United States, Canada and Mexico, marks the first time the tournament will be played by 48 nations, and the 2030 World Cup will be jointly held by Morocco, Spain and Portugal, while Argentina, Paraguay and Uruguay will host the 3 games, given the inaugural tournament was staged across those nations
countries
in 1930.
More countries, some of which probably would never have dreamt to participate in a World Cup, will have the chance to participate, and many more will have the chance to dream. We will see what the future brings us. Nobody can see in the future. What my opinion is, and I think the facts of the past show it, is that the overall quality of football is growing tremendously.
And that was the voice of FIFA President Gianni Infantino. And in rugby news, the second World Rugby HSBC Sevens Challenger Tournament kicks off today at the Athlone Stadium in Cape Town. And Springbok Women's Sevens team take on Samoa and Poland in Pool C. Other fixtures will see Uganda up against Tonga, while Portugal will face Brazil. And the Boks will need to improve on their third place finish last weekend. And outside back Nadine Roos talks about what they expect from their opponents.
So against Samoa, we expect a very physical game. They have some big players in their squad that give them a lot of momentum and that go forward. So our goal will obviously be to keep the ball away from them and have ball in hand as much as we can, and spread the ball wide into spaces, because that's also one thing that we picked up with them, is that they're quite tight on the fence. So if we can send that ball wide, attack them in those wider channels, it will make them work harder. They do have some speed, 2 speedsters in their team, but I don't think it will match the speed that we have. But definitely in terms of physicality, we don't want to play a game there. But also in saying that, when they have ball in hand, our first time hits will be very important. And our connection on defense, as well as they are a team that likes to play an offloading game. And it really looks like they almost bring a 15 start of game into the sevens. and not to underestimate their passing skills as well. They do have some skill, and they can really make you work on defense. When you look at Poland, also almost the same, very physical team. They just come straight with ball in hand. They exploit spaces, but it looks like they don't play that smart rugby. They don't really see the opportunities of the spaces, which we could notice, on the video footage. But for us, again, just for us to stick to our attacking system and our defensive system, make sure that we put them defensively under pressure, and just also get the ball in hand as much as we can so they can defend longer, tire them out, play the ball to the spaces, the wider channels, make them work harder, and those spaces will open up to go and get the points on the board.
And your weekend sports action will include the United Rugby Championship clash, where the Sharks will look to devour the Lions inside the Kings Park Tank tomorrow afternoon. And the curtain will come down on the ICC Champions Trophy when the final between New Zealand and India is played at the Dubai International Stadium on Sunday. Barring Batsukorjas for Power Sports on Power Breakfast.
Power Sports.
Mzansi, play Powerball and Powerball Plus for 67 million rand in total estimated jackpots this Friday, and you could make it rain lots of cash this March. That's right, play Powerball for an estimated 37 million rand and Powerball Plus for an estimated 30 million rand today. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120 *7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old and play responsibly. E2 is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
One moment, that's all it takes. A split second between life and death. You think you're invincible? That your trip will go off without a hitch? Well, the funeral parlor is more than happy to receive you. Is it too late? One wrong move is all it takes to end it all. Whatever you do, don't let your trip end with RIP. This message was brought to you by the Road Accident Fund, an entity of the Department of Transport. Road Accident Fund. We care.
Power 98.7 weekends. All your favorite hit music all day long. The best of the 80s, 90s, and now.
I know you wanna be the main one.
If it isn't a hit, we don't play it. This is what our weekends are made of. Power 98.7. Now we're talking.
All you need to know to start your day. Power Breakfast on Power 98.7.
The time is 7:43, and one of the things you're going to need to know today is who the new NSFAS CEO is. We covered that story at 7:50, where we do a big reveal on the show. But now we go to traffic.
Power traffic.
Thanks, Tessa. A very good morning to you. Let's check out what's happening in the city of Johannesburg. If you're traveling on the M1 northbound, traffic is backed up as usual, approaching the Jan Smuts Avenue exit. Major delays can be expected as you are traveling out of Bryanston on Ballyclare and Bryanston Drive eastbound, approaching the Coleraine Drive intersection. Republic Road eastbound, getting out of Randburg is also backed up, but delays are headed towards the Winnie Mandela Drive intersection. You can also expect delays as you are traveling on First Avenue as well as Rustenburg Road. That's in Victory Park, approaching Tana Road. 3rd Avenue South, getting out of Linden, is also backed up, approaching the Tana Road intersection. You can also expect queuing traffic this morning as you are traveling on Jan Smuts Avenue northbound as you are traveling towards the Lower Park Drive intersection. That's in Parkview. And remember, if you come across any further traffic incidents, tweet at Power 987 Traffic. For Power Traffic, I'm Leboham Pugela.
Power traffic.
Power Breakfast. Trends.
Back to the Z, and we all in the family. Back, rearrange the whole game with my rugged sound.
Wouldn't even see your own name when I come around. One more time for this week. finally reached the Friday. Super excited about the weekend that's coming through. But let's just check out one more time what's happening on social media. MK Party has been trending with the ATM, and it's good to see that progressive parties have come together to just form one united front, right? In the past, we've seen the likes of Shiruba, led by Bongani Baloyi, as well as Sara by Colleen Makubele, dissolve their parties to join the MKP. And now there's a joint statement that was circulating around on social media about a meeting between the MK as well as the ATM that they decided to work together on different political programs, right? And I don't know why something similar was not done with the issue of the EFF, where the parties decide to maintain their independence but still work together in different political programs. That whole jumping ship stuff was quite messy for a bit.
It was a little messy, but remember, it was also happening in that 14-day mess. The first problem was 14 days, guys. We thought we can run a country and get it together in 14 days. So it was going to be a little bit messy, but you're right. They need to find each other.
I am going to be withdrawing some drums from the ATM.
I see what you did there, yeah? And people are actually just out there on social media saying they have some mixed reactions to these meetings between the MK.
Talks about talks.
As well as, talks about talks between Zongola as well as the ATM and the MK party, saying that, you know what, you're speaking about withdrawing from the MK and all of that, BBK, but they're just saying that the ATM should not be joining these people because some people are morally bankrupt in the MK. That's what the people on social media are saying. It's
when you
not
decided
me.
to call your party ATM, it was always bound to happen, that one.
You know what I mean? But yeah, we move on to Julius Malema, since we're talking about the EFF as well. So the CIC of the EFF has actually gone viral for its presentation in a parliamentary sitting that's addressing the whole issue of USAID. I'm not too sure if you guys saw that clip, yeah?
In fairness, Trump came for Julius first.
Yeah, and he had to actually retaliate at some point. And this interesting friction we actually have with the US, he actually makes a good couple of points in that clip that I'm talking about, where he says that if there was a genocide in South Africa, the US wouldn't be depending on AfriForum for the intel. You know what I mean? Because they have some of the most advanced intelligence systems in the world, so they would know what's happening. They would have tapped into what's happening in the country, and also said that USAID, to begin with, actually was brought in as a tool to control the political landscape in different countries. So if it needs me, they must just take their aid. You know what I mean? And they can never dictate who our friends are. He went on to say that Cuba was our friend, China was our friend, Palestine was our friend, as well as Russia. So you cannot come through to us as a sovereign nation and dictate who we're supposed to be friendly with. So essentially, Julius Malema was just saying, that is loosely translated, refrain from the urge and the cognitive deduction that you are permitted to dictate any terms in my life experience. That's the Oxford Urban Dictionary meaning.
That sounds like sweet aid to my ears.
It feels like that thing in your pants comment.
Yeah,
so the president is in town. Joburg City is in the spotlight today.
Yeah, so the state visit finally is happening. Is it happening today? Because I think he was there yesterday as well.
He was in Gauteng yesterday.
He was in Gauteng,
now
so today's in Joburg. Yeah, so
Gauteng and Joburg, not same.
Yeah, and to
Same
what
but
you've
different.
said, same but different. And to what you said, Tessa, it just doesn't seem that the president lives with us in the country. You know what I mean? I think he really takes naps every time he drives to his offices, since we know that mattresses are for different use. You know, more of a safe space. I mean, the president drives and lives in Sandton. He's either driving from Sandton to Lutuli House if he's not doing international trips, or to Pretoria to the Union buildings. In Ekurhuleni, we know the only time he's there is when he's going to the other office, the Birchwood Hotel. Guys, we need to at some point
we must
go
find
for
out.
lunch.
Yay!
Because that
Just
thing has
sit
captured
there.
the comrades. It must be the food.
We must just sit there.
It must be the food. Figure out why these guys love it so much.
Attractive about Birchwood. I mean, Birchwood is actually Lutuli House.
Yeah.
Really, it's Lutuli House, you know, the bigger version.
Yeah, maybe the food is nice because the comrades are captured by that hotel, yeah? But to the president, though, like, we're not kids as well, right? It's your second term. So what is this oversight visit that you are doing? You should have known these things for the past 6 years that you've been president. You know what I mean? And Panyaza was also now coming out and saying that, hey, president, I apologize. And I'm hoping that the government, since he's apologized to the president, that he'll send out his government and actually get to fix some of the mess that we're experiencing. Or maybe they don't have to do it themselves. They can go and send out some drones.
Hopefully the food at Birchwood does not shock the president.
Yeah. Because everything just seems to shock our number one. Yeah? You know what I mean? So I know everyone knows that this is a last-minute spring cleaning that's being done by the president for his homies. They're bringing out that 12-piece tea set. You know that moment where they're like, okay, bring that one out from the wardrobe at the back because there are visitors that are here. That's exactly what's happening.
No, but also, good things also happen on the internet. And there's this young man who has just been given this opportunity to be a police officer without being a police officer yet.
Yeah, not a lot of feel-good stories are coming out of the U.S., yeah? Especially with President Trump as a president. But now there's this young man that you're speaking about, DJ Daniel, that's his name, who has had some tough medical conditions where he's undergone a lot of surgery. But this kid has always had this dream of being a police officer. This guy even has full uniform. You must check him out if you haven't checked him out. He's on social media. He went viral for being mocked by people in his neighborhood while rocking that uniform of his, right? And what I like about DJ is that even in the video, under such provocation, he didn't act. He remembered that Black Lives Matter.
I'm so glad Daniel remembered that.
You remember that, yeah?
I'm very glad for Daniel. Daniel must teach the other police officers there, the real ones.
Exactly. There's even a video right now of DJ giving Donald Trump a hug, and it just doesn't look like President Trump wants to be embracing DJ, yeah?
We must send support to DJ. Love condolences for DJ because that must have been tough.
Yeah, that was tough. And social media saw that, and I'm seeing quite a lot of mixed reactions.
How about Daniel putting his knee on President Donald Trump's
No, too far. Just a little bit too
Midnight Oil has a very distinct smell for business owners. Those who know will say it's got grit and graft. That's why Telkom Business wants to unleash the hero in you with the Business Fusion deal. Get a Packard Bell Montenero laptop, LTE 120 gigs anytime data, 120 gigs night surfer data, Smart Voice Basic, plus a professional website for only 749 Rand per month. Call 10213, click telkom.co.za or go to any Telkom shop. TNC apply. Telkom. Possible begins here.
Ladies, it's time to celebrate you. Join the Empower Her Ladies Lunch at NH Santon on the 28th of March, a day of inspiration, indulgence, and connection. Enjoy empowering guest speakers, a high tea, wine tasting, and the ultimate pampering by Thai therapists, plus a skincare masterclass, laugh therapy, and Prakisha Naidu will be there as well. A fabulous goodie bag is yours to get as well. All this for just 750 Rand. Spaces are limited. Book by calling 011 233 1888 and invest in yourself.
Hi everyone, I'm Dean McPherson, the Minister of Public Works and Infrastructure. In the State of the Nation reply, I announced that we're releasing 31 state-owned properties for redevelopment that will generate 10 billion Rand in investment and create 165,000 new jobs. These public-private partnerships will help us realize our dream to turn South Africa into a construction site. To achieve this, the department in 2025 will be leveraging reforms in infrastructure development through Infrastructure South Africa, release requests for proposals to redevelop our small harbours, which will create tens of thousands of new jobs, as well as reforming the expanded public works program to ensure it becomes a genuine stepping stone to permanent employment. We are accelerating efforts to get more cranes in the sky and more shovels in the ground. Our department is working for you and with you to build a better South Africa for the future.
All the action packed in 180 minutes. Power Breakfast with Tessa Dooms. Weekdays 6 to 9 a.m.
The time now is 7:54, and we have an announcement for you this morning on Power Breakfast. We have with us the newly appointed acting CEO of NSFAS, our funding agency for students, Mr. Wasim Karim. Wasim, welcome to Power Breakfast. So good to hear from you and knowing what your next steps are now. After quite a long stint at the NYDA as CEO there, congratulations on the new job.
Oh, thank you so much, Tessa. Good morning to you and your listeners. And congratulations to you on your new job as well.
Listen, we meet on these streets, never giving up on young people. The mission is always clear. And I was saying to you, I'm very glad that you've not been lost to the youth sector, because the institutional knowledge that you'll be bringing from the NYDA, firstly as CFO, previously and now CEO, comes into the NESFA space. But you are in an acting role, and there have been challenges within NESFAS. It's been under administration, so it hasn't been strong on leadership. What is your first port of call as the acting CEO?
Yeah. Thanks, Tessa. I think right now we're at the start of the 2025 academic year, which is a very important juncture. It's a time when a lot of young people are transitioning from the basic education system into the higher education system. And it's quite a fundamental change if you look at it from a young person's perspective. I'm sure you and many of your listeners will remember, being on campus for the first time can be quite overwhelming.
I don't remember that, my dude. It was a lifetime ago. Literally a lifetime ago.
So the lasting students, particularly those who come from marginalized and vulnerable backgrounds, who previously would have been excluded from higher education sector, the last thing they need to worry about is, what's their funding status and where their next meal will come from and whether they'll be allowed to buy textbooks and things like that there. So really, the National Student Financial Aid Scheme, as a support mechanism to low-income households, is meant to work with both students as well as higher education institutions in ensuring a smooth start to the academic year, and ensuring that students know their funding status, both new and returning students, in ensuring that their monthly allowances are paid on time, in ensuring that the students are able to start the academic year without too much concerns about the other things and really be able to focus on their studies and their academic journey. Yeah.
Sure, and I'm also thinking that high on your list of things to do and attend to is an SIU investigation that also sits on your desk now, where the SIU is saying that they're going to be looking at recovering about $2 billion in funds that were incorrectly paid to universities and roughly 40,000 transactions that were incorrect. As an accountant yourself, I'm sure those numbers worry you greatly. Is this on your desk at the moment?
Yeah, I think it's a broad issue in South Africa, right? Is to say, even when you speak to the National Treasury and even in my former role, there's a lot of concern about the double dipping that's happening in South Africa.
Sure.
And let's take an example outside of NAFTA, that you might find somebody who's benefiting from both a public employment program and a social relief of distress card. Now, at an individual level, it might seem small. It's a 2,000 rand stipend plus 370 rand grant. But when you multiply that across 100,000 or 200,000, it takes figures into the billions. And it's important money that's being lost to the fiscus at a time when South Africa is in a deep physical crisis. Yeah. So I think we do have a challenge in South Africa of different institutions of government information not talking to one another, right? So when you're assessing a household income to say, does a student qualify or not for funding, you don't necessarily have very good data that you can rely on. Yeah, and that sometimes leads to incorrect funding decisions, which puts us now where we are, where the SIU says you've incorrectly funded students. Now, it might be a mistake or it might have been fraud. You've got to go and investigate each individual case and determine the recoverability thereof. But what I think needs to happen is there needs to be accountability, both for the failure at systems level as well as accounting for any sort of corruption that may have happened. Yeah.
No, and I appreciate that. You and I both have a bee in our bonnet around TVETs and the ways in which TVETs are kind of the stepchild of this sector. But it's also TVETs where the most support is needed, especially when you think not just about, tuition fees, but the fees and the money that helps support those students in terms of things like food, accommodation, because, the big universities have these accommodation plans that are much more set. Are you going to do a focus on the accommodation needs, the food needs, the extra needs of TVET students?
Yeah. I think to maybe separate issues, I think student accommodation is a huge crisis, but it's also an opportunity, right? So if you look at student accommodation, there's really two issues that you face. One is that the system is not very efficient in placing students in available accommodation. But two, and a more fundamental problem, is that there's just not enough student accommodation in
across
the
the board,
particularly in rural areas. Right. But where I see that as an opportunity is that, if you've got security of tenure through NSFAS funding, it's a huge opportunity to the construction centers, and I think the president himself has said we should turn South Africa into a construction site. And I think the opportunity to drive the construction sector, particularly in peri-urban and rural areas, presents an opportunity also to stimulate local economies. So
right.
I'm interested in it from that perspective. But then I think too as well, a lot of countries that have succeeded have focused well on the vocational sector. And I think South Africa has the right idea around focusing on the vocational sector. But you're absolutely correct in that we treat it as the stepchild, right? So the majority of our applications go to universities, and when you don't make it into university, you take a TVET opportunity, and those skills are so critical, right? But I think TVET kind of needs support, and it needs reform in the way that what we're also seeing on the other side of TVET is that 50% of young people who come through the TVET system are not finding opportunities to do their work integrated learning.
Yeah.
So you've got this opportunity, you've done your theory, but you're unable to exit because there just aren't enough work integrated learning opportunities. And that's not necessarily a NSFAS problem, but it all falls within the family of the Department of Higher Education and Training. And you have got to get NSFAS working much more closely with the CETAs, working much more closely with business, for example, to make sure. So one of the things.
So Wasim, I wanted to actually end on that point that you just raised now, because I think that is the crux of the matter, and we will hope as the public that you will work closely with the Department of Higher Education on these kinds of issues. But we do wish you well in your journey, Wasim. This is not going to be an easy one. You're going to be fighting fires and building an institution here, and so we want to speak to you more in days to come. But thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much, Tessa. Have a good day.
You're listening to Wasim Karim. He is the newly appointed acting CEO at NSFAS. We are now at the top of the hour with news.
Power News.
The top stories: 3 dead and 4 injured in a Sandton restaurant shooting. Meanwhile, Gauteng committee to discuss a third quarter crime stats.
And Amakosi, Amapagania and Amasandawana chasing a passage to the Nedbank Cup semis, and also the ICC Champions Trophy Kings to be crowned, as well as Manchester United to welcome Arsenal at the Old Trafford. And there's also golf on the go in Gauteng. This and more when you and I get together for the final bulletin at 8:30.
A very good morning. I'm Nompumelelo Ngubeni. The police are investigating a murder and attempted murder case following a shooting at a Sandton restaurant last night. 3 people were killed and 4 others injured in that incident. Reports indicate a man with a firearm attempted to enter the restaurant, which has a strict no firearm policy. An altercation between the man's bodyguards and security led to the shooting. Gauteng SAPS Colonel Makatso Nevurului says 2 bodyguards were pronounced dead at the scene, while 5 others were hospitalized due to gunshot wounds.
2 of the bodyguards were declared dead on the scene, while 5 victims were taken to a local hospital with gunshot injuries. And the man unfortunately succumbed to his injuries on arrival at the hospital. Preliminary investigation revealed that the man who started this has previously been arrested for a shooting incident also in Sandton last year. Currently, no one has been arrested and police investigations continue.
Meanwhile, the Gauteng Provincial Legislature's Portfolio Committee on Community Safety will hold a briefing this morning with Provincial Police Commissioner Lieutenant General Tommy Mtombeni. The briefing will cover the third quarter crime stats for the 2024-25 financial year, focusing on crime trends from October to December of 2024, a period often marked by increased criminal activity during the festive season. The session will provide insight into police responses, safety strategies and challenges faced during this period, as well as a review of ongoing programs aimed at improving safety and combating crime in the province. At the same time, 7 Chinese nationals are scheduled to be sentenced later this morning at the Gauteng High Court. The individuals were convicted on charges relating to human trafficking and child labor. The charges also include failing to register with the Compensation Fund, not declaring their business operations, and not keeping accurate financial records. Additionally, they neglected to submit earning returns, pay necessary assessments, as well as ensure safe working environment for their employees. Employment and Labour spokesperson Tebogo Tejane says the Deputy Minister will be present at the sentencing.
At 9 o'clock in the morning, Deputy Minister Jomo Sibia will be attending the sentencing proceedings of the 7 Chinese nationals found guilty of human trafficking and child labor. The 7 Chinese nationals were found guilty on 160 counts. The Department of Employment and Labour working for you.
The National Energy Regulator of South Africa has expressed serious concern over the increasing incidents of petroleum pipeline tampering and product theft. According to the regulator, these criminal activities pose significant safety and environmental risks, as well as economic losses to the country. NERSA says stricter security measures and law enforcement interventions are needed to curb the illegal siphoning of fuel from pipelines. They're urging communities and industry players to report any suspicious activity to prevent further damage and disruptions. A spokesperson, Charles Hlabela, adds that they've also set new tariffs for the petroleum pipeline systems, which will allow Transnet to increase its allowable revenue.
The fuel price will increase by 5.23 cents per litre in the 2025-26 financial year, followed by a 3.80 cents per litre increase in the 2026-27 financial year. The tariffs are set for a period of 2 years, from the 1st of April 2025 to the 31st of March 2026, and from the 1st of April 2026 to the 31st of March 2027. In arriving at its decision, the energy regulator considered a variety of factors, including public interest and regulatory certainty, as well as key issues that include pipeline tampering and product theft incidents, the multi-product pipeline project, market analysis of volume risk sharing, economic impact assessment, and smoothing of the tariff trajectory.
Taking a look at your financial indicators, the rand is trading at 18 rand 12 to the US dollar, 23 rand 35 to the pound, 19 rand 59 to the euro. Gold is trading at $2,911.29 a fine ounce. Brent crude oil is at $69.52 a barrel. A partly cloudy day forecast in Gauteng. Johannesburg temperatures are at 19 and 31 degrees, 20 and 33 in Pretoria, and 19 and 32 in Vereeniging. Recapping the top story in Power News this hour. Police are investigating a murder and attempted murder case following a shooting at a Sandton restaurant last night.
In power traffic, we start off in Germiston. If you're traveling on the N12 westbound, there's a broken down vehicle that's just after the Jet Park Road exit, and that's what's slowing down traffic as you're traveling past that section. If you're traveling on the N3 northbound, there's also a vehicle that's broken down in Edenvale near the Modderfontein Road exit, and that is causing some more delays onto that N3 highway that's already backed up from the Geldenhuys interchange. You can also expect some congestion this morning as you're traveling on Hofmeyer as you're joining Tana Road eastbound with that pressure clearing just after Linden Road.
Power News. On FM, online, and DSTV channel 889. This is Power 98.7.
Power Breakfast is proudly brought to you by Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
And now, you're listening to Power Breakfast with Tessa Dooms, weekdays 6 to 9 a.m. Taking your calls on 0861 987 000.
Good morning, Tessa, BBK, Lewu, and the power listeners, Mirokota and Pretoria. Tessa, I would like to thank Utatana Given Mkari for giving us this hot lineup in the morning. From Kwena to this breakfast of Tess and BBK comes Dr. Ndlozi. Now we are glued to our radio station. Now some of us will get warning letters from our work because we are no longer concentrating. Mirokota Dango.
The time now is 8:09. You're on Power Breakfast with Tessa Dooms, and we are landing the plane in the third hour. As you heard there, you can send your voice notes to 083 303 7093. Our studio line is still open for your calls on 0861 987 000. And I can see there are a lot of tweets here on Twitter. Hashtag Power Breakfast is how you get a hold of us on Twitter. Our hashtag and our handle there is Power Breakfast 987. And we have Prince K, who has said to us, what has President Cyril Ramaphosa accounted for? He's always shocked or annoyed. It's gaslighting on matters and failing that we should say things are working. So no progress there. And then we have from Musoto, he says, innovation comes with risks that humanity has always been able to absorb. We no longer use horse-drawn carts, but we get into our cars and flights daily knowing the risk of crashing. E-voting is no different. It has risks, but the benefits are higher, more so if it uses biometric ID. And that's throwing to the story that we had in the first hour of the show around e-voting. And then we have a final comment here from Dr. Sanele. It says, the misclassification of HIV/AIDS as a cause of death has been an issue for years. During the HIV denialism, it used to be there to justify downplaying the epidemic and diverting focus away from HIV. And so he's reflecting there on a story that we were covering a bit earlier on that said that HIV deaths have been underreported. This was from the Medical Research Council of South Africa that were looking at a study that they did, I think it was in 2018. And they were telling us that there's such a big discrepancy there, guys. Again, it worries me greatly when we have those kinds of discrepancies. 4% is what was actually reported, and they're telling us that the deaths were as high as 23%. But I want to go back to the story that we've been covering, of course, that everybody's been covering in Gauteng in the last 2 days, which is the president. And we spoke earlier to Moeketsi from the Ahmed Kathrada Foundation, and he was talking to us and saying that they're going to be, in civil society, is going to be meeting up with the president this afternoon. So my question to you is, Moeketsi has agreed that he's going to take questions from the Power family to the president this afternoon. So if the president were to have a conversation with you today, what questions will you ask him? I'd like you to send us your calls, your voice notes, and your tweets. Let's give Moeketsi some work to do this afternoon when he comes in. We have a caller now from Tsepo from Pretoria. What is your question for the president that you think Moeketsi must send over there?
Look, Tessa, I do not have a question. Good morning.
Good morning.
I've got a suggestion to the city of Joburg.
That's even better, actually.
Yeah, look, for me, and I'm going to compare Joburg and Cape Town. But for me, if Joburg can deal with four things, they will sort out the city. First of all, they need to reduce the number of homelessness in the city. Because if you've got a lot of homeless people in the city, the investment moves away. Moves out of the city. So investment would be companies, the KFCs, the shops. People that make the city vibrant, they leave. Because there's just too many homeless people. Number two, they need to clear the streets. There's so many people who are selling the same thing, and they're just flooding the paving where people are walking, where the people need to be moving in the streets. It's corner to corner, it's people selling same thing. And it's more like a squatter camp of people selling there. You get people selling head of a cow here. They're putting it there. The bones are left there. Everything is a mess in the city because of these people who are selling. This thing is not controllable. It's not controlled properly. If you go to Cape Town, you find one person selling whatever he's selling, one at the corner, the next corner another one. You don't get a chain of people with shacks selling the same thing. So you need to control that.
So, Tsepa, I hope you're not saying that we should get rid of informal traders in the cities, because
I say we should get rid of them. You shouldn't be afraid of getting. No, that's a fact. If you are going to run the city with mercy, run the city with, we love these people, you're not going to get the city in Cape Town. People who vote for Cape Town people, the DA, are not white. They are colored.
Yeah.
But you will not find them all over the place. The city is running the city, is not running charity. So you need to run the city. You must not run charity. Number 3, you need to reduce the number of people who are staying in the city. Because what you're going to find, you're going to find these flats having satellite dishes all over the place. It's a flowers of satellite dishes. It's the dirty blankets all overflowing out of the windows. It's a mess. So the city must be dominated by hotels, must be dominated by commercial buildings, people who are coming to the city to work, and the student hostels. These people staying in the city, they're saying, this is my resident, you must get rid of them. And you not care whether these people are black or are they voters, you must get rid of them. They must go outside of the city. We must come to the city to work. If you go to Sentin, there are very few people staying in Sentin.
All right,
in Sentin, it's corporate, it's commercial, it's hotels. We need to do it like that.
Loud and clear. Loud and clear. No, Tsebo. I have
get
to.
Rid of, lastly, quickly, get rid of squatter camps in our parks. We get people staying in the parks. It's their home. Get rid of that. Just get rid of that. This thing is supposed to be a garden. So we go there and stay there and unwind and go back home. People have set up a squatter camp in the park. Get rid of it.
Askis, I'm going to have to cut you short. We're going to agree to disagree. I'll explain to you what I agree on and disagree on later in the show when we're talking about our inputs. But for now, we are transitioning into a different conversation. We have one of our music legends with us on the show today. And as I said in the beginning of the show, I really have a respect for artists. I myself sing, I dance. I used to be a backup dancer once upon a time in my life. I'll tell you guys about that one day, Shem. But I really respect artists, and I believe that artists have a role to play in South Africa. But everybody that has a valuable contribution requires to get value back for that contribution. And artists in this country are in an ongoing struggle, whether it is actors, and we've seen the Actors Guild really standing up for actors, saying that the unionization issue is a big issue. We've seen musicians talking about SAMRO and all of these institutions not necessarily giving them fair due. And now we have the copyright bill, which has been in the making for 10 years. And this affects all artists, and it's about fair use of their content. And so we welcome onto the show Brasipo Hot Sticks Mabuse, and he's going to help us unpack these issues. Brasipo, I am so excited to have you in our first week at Power Breakfast. I met you a few weeks ago in person for the first time. Thank you so much for gracing our airwaves.
Thank you so much, Tessa, and thank you for to your listeners as well, and thank you for the introduction as well. However, I'm more cautious that I don't dwell into things I might find very difficult to have answers to, so we can continue the conversation.
Absolutely, no. But I just wanted to talk about artists in this country and the struggles that artists are facing. Because really it is about two things. It's about recognition. It's about your intellectual rights as artists being protected. And also about the bottom line. What are the things that keep you up at night as a musician in this country?
Well, one of the most important things we should understand about artists. Being an artist is a very complex life, very complicated, complex at times. Even artists themselves are complex people, and some of the things, obviously, that one has to deal with is ensuring that, one has a normal lifestyle like anybody else. Someone who has a family, someone who has children to look after, extended families, and so on. And from the creativity that one, works on, there obviously has to be a beneficiation. If people don't benefit from the work they do, we need to unpack that to find out what would be the reason that people do not benefit from the work that they work with. And obviously out there are those, what you consider hawks. obviously watching and probably taking also advantage of the ignorance. Artists themselves are soulful people.
Sure.
And I'm generalizing about when I say artists. They're soulful people. They're not the kind of people that want to be engaged in legal battles and so on. Because first of all, they do not have the resources to go through the battles.
100%.
So those who are smarter and who have the resources will always find a leeway into ensuring that they can take as much from the artists as they can.
No, absolutely. And there's also this question about regularizing parts of the industry so that as an individual artist, you don't have to fight alone. Questions about being able to work as collectives and unionizing these issues is one part of it, but just regularizing some of these things so that you don't have to take on the so-called big boys of the industry. I really worry that, especially for emerging artists, I mean, we're talking here about more established artists even getting a raw deal. But I mean, if you look at township art is dying because emerging artists can't see any pathway towards professional lives. And actually, you're so right. Artists deserve professional lives. If a lawyer can have a professional life where he can go to a bank and get a loan, where he can be seen as a risk worth taking by a lender, surely artists deserve the same. And are you seeing any progress in creating that kind of professional life and pathways into this industry, which I think is an important one for the future?
Unfortunately not, Tessa. Unfortunately not. But also, I think we have to take the blame for all of these things. You know, sometimes we're encumbered by our own egocentrism. You know, we're too individualistic in our way we do things. You know, it's always a difficulty to create a collective. You know, we don't understand the concept of unionization.
Sure.
Without the majority, if we came in as a majority and we are one-minded and in our pursuits, we'll be able to defeat the monster. However, we always look at ourselves. Those who are successful will always be thinking, well, why should I be getting involved in all this stuff when I'm making my own success? And yet it's not even about individual things. It's about the entire environment. You know, create a conducive environment for artists to thrive. And those who are successful should be the ones that come to the party. And for instance, I have someone that I have so much respect for. You know, Chico is always out there trying to fight battles. And he's a very successful musician. You know, he's a very successful. He does not need to be doing some of the things that he's doing.
Absolutely. And that's solidarity.
Yes, because it's important to create that solidarity. Yes, he might probably be fighting for it, but at the same time, he's also a successful person who's willing to say no. As a collective, we're able to advance certain, rights for ourselves and ensure that the artists benefit from their work.
No, and I think that that's a really important point as well, the solidarity within the industry, people fighting battles on each other's behalf. And I will say this of you, Rasipo, I've seen you in rooms with young musicians, with young artists, standing shoulder to shoulder with them. And I think that is what's required because, of course, a voice like yours is going to be heard, with much more gravitas than other voices. And so that question about solidarity and not fighting on their own, I know that musicians are usually used to having, the stage to themselves, but maybe there's a metaphor here around that collaboration, around coming together and working together. And maybe there's more strength to be gained from working together than trying to be competitive in the industry to a fault. What for you is the next step in getting this industry in the right direction? Because, like I said, I think this is one of the future of South Africa. We talk about AI coming for our jobs, but I know that I don't want a live performance by a robot. And so this industry, given our level of talent in this country, surely should be one for the future.
Absolutely. One of the things that really concerns me, and I'm also grateful that you also have Musicians United organization,
Yeah.
But all these little enclaves do not create a unified force, unfortunately, because when I interact in many of these structures, I find that people are more interested in how they can do it for themselves. We need to get out of this and say, what are the challenges that are facing the artists in
Absolutely.
general in the whole country, because it's easier for politicians in particular to create, or even the businesses themselves to create an environment where they divide, the thinking of say,
Divide and
okay,
rule.
you are the superstar, we will place you where you are. Now, if you're a musician who hasn't the level of consciousness to say, no, this is not about me, this is about my colleagues, this is about the people that I live with, immediately you think like that, then it changes, the space. It ensures that those who are actually taking over. For instance, we have these what you call streaming platforms. Do you know what streaming platforms have done for the industry? They've totally decimated.
Yeah.
If an artist like Java could complain about the amount of money that they are receiving, that includes a collecting society, then it means something is not right. It means we are not doing anything correct and defend our territory.
No, absolutely. I mean, from the consumer side, we think streaming is just, bringing a boom. But I think there's actually a whole show to be done, or a whole segment to be done, just on understanding the back end of streaming and whether it's actually benefiting musicians. Thank you so much for raising that with us. We're so, so grateful that we had in the show with us Brasipo Hot Sticks Mabusa, a musician that I do not have to give any more introduction to, just giving us a sense of what are the issues in this industry and how do we take an activist stance to fix them. That was our last morning feature.
Power traffic.
Thanks, Tessa. Very good morning. Actually, when you're speaking about that whole collaborative effort in making sure that everyone from different parts of the arts comes together to just try and go and chase this common goal and making sure that people value the arts more, reminds me of a strike action that was actually happening in the United States last year. I think it was the Writers Guild of America strike that
100%.
lasted about 4 months, where people who worked behind the scenes in different productions, even some superstars and directors, they literally went out and they shut everything down.
They walked out on their sets. They said, we're not coming to work. Projects were delayed. Everybody came together. You saw it even affecting TikTok.
Yeah, exactly. So that's maybe what needs to be done in South Africa, just to ensure that everyone benefits. That if you injure one person,
Injury to one, injury to
injure
all.
war. Let's check out what's happening in your roads. If you're traveling on the R24 West, you can still expect delays approaching Kalulis. If you're traveling on Winnie Mandela Drive southbound, delays can still be expected headed towards Santon Drive. Republic Road eastbound is very slow as well. That's as you're approaching at that Winnie Mandela Drive intersection. In Crowthorne, if you're traveling on the R55 south, do expect to queue for about 20 minutes. Those delays start shortly after Summit Road, heading all the way down to the Allendale Road intersection. And remember, if you come across any further traffic incidents, tweet at Power987 Traffic. For Power Traffic, I'm Lebohang Pukela.
Power traffic. Power markets.
Ka-ching, ka-ching. We have Nick Kunza, Sanlam's Senior Portfolio Manager, taking us through some of the big stories. So Grindrod earnings are affected by border disruptions and heavy rains. The heavy rains, I understand, for a logistic company. What's happening with the border disruptions, Nick?
Yeah, good morning. Yeah, Grindrod just going from one sort of bad story from the next. Last year it was all about Durban, Richards Bay, the problems with Transnet, and now they seem to be having problems with getting freight out of their border at Mozambique. We all know the trials and tribulations what's happening in Maputo. Ironically, Maputo was actually doing the heavy lifting while Durban was down. Now it's the other way around. So
sure.
Maybe Grindrod will get a bit of a break at some point.
Oh man, so it's the Maputo border and the political tensions there that have slowed them down. So FirstRand is in a different direction. Again, the financial sector just booming. So they have a 10% boost due to geographic diversification. I'm hoping this is into the rest of Africa.
Yeah, it is actually. So, Standard Bank were the pioneers 20 years ago of going into Africa. FirstRand are following quite closely, and their results yesterday proved it. Increase, as you said, 10%, a nice increase in dividends as well. Credit performance was good. Also, a lot of the other factors, you look at things like return on equity, also over 20%, which is really good. So, interesting enough, you actually want a strong financial sector in a country, which means people are borrowing, you're lending credit, the economy's growing. So this is actually not bad results if you look at what our bad GDP print was a few days ago. So I think this actually bodes reasonably well for the SA consumer for now.
That's a good thing. And Sappi, the paper company, also seeing some movement over there. Are they having 300 million euro offering on the go here?
Yeah, so they're coming to the debt markets. I mean, in layman's terms, they're just borrowing more, but what they're doing is they're actually issuing a note that's due in 2032.
Printing money.
Yeah, to a certain extent, although someone is buying the money that they are printing, because it's not a bad yield, it's 4.5%, and they're going to be using that to pay off some debt. And I think there was an old bond as well that was maturing, I think, next year, so they're paying it off too. So obviously, yes, someone is buying it, although they are printing. No pun intended, yes.
So take us to the indicators before we go to the bottom of the hour.
So looking okay, actually, to finish off the week. Rand is 18.14. It's the strongest it's been all week, and that is against a weaker dollar and also weaker sort of other crosses and a lot of repositioning. Some traders are saying ahead of the budget next week. So stronger dollar, stronger Rand against the dollar. Aussie futures, that is the JSE futures, indicating to open flat this morning after what has been quite a strong week. And just some of the other indicators that listeners might be interested in. We're looking at the gold price. Gold price is actually up a little bit this morning, $2, $2,912 an ounce, and platinum 966, that is flat, and oil bouncing back a little bit, up 0.25% on the oil. Brent trading just under $70 in what has been a bad week for oil this week.
Thank you. That's Nick Kunza, Sanlam's Senior Portfolio Manager. Now for news headlines.
Thanks, Tessa. Good morning. Small Business Development Minister Stella Ndabeni will officially launch the Shared Economic Infrastructure Facilities Initiative in Ekurhuleni this morning. The initiative aims to provide co-funding for shared infrastructure facilities to support micro, small and medium enterprises in Gauteng. This through a collaborative partnership with municipalities, provincial governments, as well as government agencies. Members of Parliament have urged government to act swiftly in addressing the impact of funding cuts by the United States. The debate held yesterday afternoon was prompted by a motion from the EFF calling for an urgent discussion on the matter. EFF leader Julius Malema cautioned that aside from the cuts to health programs, similar reductions could affect other areas, including those supporting trade. He emphasized that South Africa will not be intimidated by the United States.
We are not the puppets of the USA. We will never be bullied by Donald Trump and his friends. South Africa remains an independent state, which is not handled by the USA.
I'll have more on these and other power stories at 9 o'clock.
In power traffic, if you are traveling on the N1 South in Centurion, traffic is still very slow between the Brakfontein interchange and the Olifantsfontein Road exit. Old Johannesburg Road is also experiencing a 20-minute backlog that's coming from Centurion heading towards a Midrand. You can expect those delays between the N1 and the Olifantsfontein Road intersection. If you are traveling on Olifantsfontein Road, heavy congestion in both directions can be expected. You can also expect queuing traffic as you are traveling through Country View on Lever Road southbound. Those delays are just under 20 minutes from Moss Green Road heading towards that Olifantsfontein Road route.
Power Sports.
Lebza.
Yeah, bro, BBK.
If you have R1 million stashed somewhere, you can register your interest to become a new soccer boss and buy Royal AM.
I'm ready. Sure. Who's going to give me $1 million? We need to find someone to give me $1 million. Yeah.
Let's crowdfund for that thing. Let's see what happens.
Yeah, let's buy a team. Why not?
Half.
Why crowdfund when there's a man with billions who is visiting Gauteng? Getting on to your bulletin, SARS has invited interested parties to bid to buy a Trouble Premier Soccer League club, Royal AM. SARS curator put up a public notice announcing Royal AM will be auctioned off in a bid to recoup the money that is a 40 million tax debt owed to it by a Royal AM owner, Ushon Umamkiz. And moving on to action on the field now, Nedbank Cup holders Orlando Pirates open the quarterfinal action away to SuperSport United at the Peter Mokaba Stadium tomorrow tomorrow afternoon, and SuperSport United will look to revive themselves when they face Orlando Pirates at Old Peter Mokaba Stadium. And this is Matsatsanza Pitori having been struggling in the league, having won just one match in their last encounters. And goalkeeper coach or assistant coach Andre Arense says they are fully aware that Pirates are capable of damaging other teams.
It's a game I think that we as a club go into on the back of not some good form. Our league position will state that. And what it does do is it gives us a break from the league so that we can focus on just something different, try a few different things with players, setups, formations, etc., and build that again towards our league campaign after this particular game. But I certainly am looking forward to. I think every coach does, every player does.
And also tomorrow at 6 p.m., Stellenbosch will host Kaizer Chiefs at the Nelson Mandela Bay. And at 8 p.m. at the Lucas Masterpieces Moripa Stadium, Mamelodi Sundowns will be banking to transform their league form to cup action when they face Sekhukhune United. And Sekhukhune will be led by Kaitano Temba as well as Paulos Masehe following the dismissal of Litlohonolo Siyema last night. And the battle for the final semi-final spots will be between Mutsipe Foundation Championship side Durban City as well as Marumo Gallants. And in action from the EPL, Man City will be hoping not to get stuck in the Nottingham Forest, and leaders Liverpool hosting Southampton at Anfield, and Palace against Ipswich, Brighton against Aston Villa among the matches tomorrow. And on Sunday, Mikel Arteta will be looking for his second place Arsenal to try to reduce the gap between the Gunners and Liverpool when they play at Ruben Amorim's Manchester United at Old Trafford. Pew, pew, pew. I know one lady will be having her fingers crossed that they catch a victory. And in the UEFA Conference League, Chelsea are on a quest to become the first team to win all three European competitions following their 2-1 win against FC Copenhagen in their first leg encounter round of 16. Chelsea's keeper and scorer of one of their two goals, Rhys James, had this to say.
A tough game, an amazing atmosphere. We knew coming here wasn't going to be easy, and in the first half we found it tough to break them down. They set up probably different to what we expected, and I think towards the second half we kind of made some changes at half-time, and in the second half I feel we grew into the game. The first half was more to stay calm, not get frustrated, but we was playing against such a deep block. In the past we've probably got frustrated in the first half, and that probably has been tough going into the second half, but we stayed we stuck to the game plan and stayed cool.
And when the Joburg Open tees off for day 2 in Houghton, it will show on the leaderboard Wen Yiding as well as Jordan Smith leading, and the Chinese golfer as well as the Englishman cut at 7 under par 63 for a one-stroke lead over 5 rivals, which included Jaden Sharpa, the only South African who was among the top 7. Rounding off from the tennis courts, Brazilian teenager João Fonseca rallied from a breakdown to a third set to beat Britain's Jacob Fernley 6-2, 1-6 and 6-3 in his Indian Wells maiden debut, as well as Nick Kyrgios being in tears as he retired injured from his first round match with Botic van der Zandschap due to a wrist injury while trailing 7-6 and 3. Don't forget our appointment tonight. We have a date on my first edition of Power Sport Extra between 6 and 8 p.m. For now, for Power Sports on Power Breakfast, BBK is my name.
Power Sports.
We can't make you a morning person.
Good morning to you, Power family. Good morning.
But we can surely make your weekend mornings. Everything you need to make your weekend mornings better.
How are you this morning? I hope you're doing well. I hope you had a fabulous week.
Power Weekend Breakfast with Siraj Maahi. A little bit of this, that, and everything you need to start your weekend.
It's also important to differentiate between a need and a want. A luxury.
But what if I need what I want?
Saturdays 6 to 10 a.m. and Sundays 6 to 9 a.m. on Power 98.7.
We are members of the Weekend Breakfast Church, hence we don't go to other churches.
Now we're talking.
The silence of a till that hasn't rung in a while is deafening to any business owner. That's why Telkom Business wants to unleash the hero in you with a Business Fusion deal. Get a versatile tablet, LTE 120 gigs anytime data, 120 gigs night surfer data, Smart Voice Basic, plus a professional website for only 699 Rand per month. And make the till ring again. Call 10213, click telkom.co.za or go to any Telkom shop. T&C apply. Telkom, possible begins here.
Send us your voice notes on 083-303-7093.
Good morning, Tessa and the breakfast team.
Good morning.
Just
Power
because
family.
the manual voting that we got used to, it's got issues, ballot boxes that are just appearing, some disappearing everywhere. I think we should give this e-voting a chance. We really don't have anything to lose. In fact, if it's done correctly, I think it will just make this voting more accountable.
A lot of people
from Clayville.
pro e-voting.
Good morning, Tess and your team there. Yeah, this is Letawa from Lotus. Tess, I want to say you are doing a good job, and your team there, BBK,
Thank you, guys.
the Wampogel and the producers. Guys, you are doing a good job. It feels the same. It feels like home. Power breakfast. You are doing a good job, guys.
Thank you.
Keep it up, guys. You are doing a good job.
You know what
This is
Danko means,
Letawa
my
from
brother.
Lotus.
Danko
Today I
means
don't want to complain. I just want to compliment you guys. Doing a good job. Thank you.
Danko means thank you.
So the time is now 8:41. We are landing the plane this morning, just reflecting on the day that we've had. We've had a lot of good conversations. Again, the president's visit is top of mind for so many of you. Let me read a few tweets before we go to the lines. Somebody saying here, Nyembe saying, what's the question for the president? What's President Cyril Ramaphosa's rescue plan for ArcelorMittal, the steel company, to save the thousands of jobs that are on the line there? And I think it's a good question to be asked. And then we have one of the Joburg City councillors, and I actually have been thinking, are the Joburg councillors actually going to get to meet with the president? Because surely they know more than anybody else about what's going on here. But we have Councillor Theo Doyle, one of my favorite councillors in the city of Joburg, always on social media telling us what he's up to. He says, we don't have water, electricity, crime, unemployment, hijacked buildings, dirty environment is a crisis. We have a leadership crisis in the city of Joburg. And so saying that we need decisive leadership and ethical, visionary leadership ASAP. And I think hearing from councillors is really important. And then we have Lesedi. Lesedi, you bring on an important point here that I wanted to raise with Tsepo's call. You say, you guys have brought the fire to the breakfast show. Tsepo was definitely bringing fire, guys. The gentleman that said, divorce the informal traders. Thinking like this should be a crime. A question for the president, though. What is the plan to return economic growth to 5% annually? So we're going to go to the lines quickly before we bring in the team. So Hamlet from Pretoria, welcome to Power Breakfast.
Good morning, Tessa. My question to the president would be that he must explain that, how do we going to get from this debt burden? As you know that, our debt to GDP ratio is sitting at 75%, right? Mm-hmm. And we're paying a interest cost of about 400 billion rands per annum. Our total debt is about 5.8 trillion rands, right? But the question is, Tessa, where is the money?
Right.
You can't see the money in ESCOM. You can't see the money in rolling out of infrastructure. Actually, there's austerity measures in place. You can't see the money in Transnet. You can't see the money in most of these SOEs. We are technically, a bankrupt country, and we can't even extend any, credit lines with capital markets. Now, the challenge is that there's only one, way to stimulate the fiscal so that the government can run. Is that 2% VAT that you and I will have to pay. If you saw the article on Sunday Times on Sunday, there's 2 billion rand, that was paid by PRASA to a service provider, paying a third-party account. So corruption, it's what is eroding, the fiscus. And corruption, in the main, the G20 anti-corruption, what? Those are semantics to the South African government. And we must be aware that we are going to foot this 400 billion rand interest a day, and that is not capital. We are in deep trouble, and we've got to be concerned.
Hey, Hamlet, I thought you were going to use another word there when you said trouble. But Hamlet, to your point, and I'm going to give you a shocking stat for the city of Joburg. We are about to take a loan from France of 2.5 billion rand. And that is to renovate the building that the offices are supposed to be in. And I told you this yesterday. We're about to take a loan of 2.5 billion to renovate a building. And your point is well made. If we're going to borrow, let's at least see the fruit of that borrowing. It must create and generate things for us. We can't borrow to spend like we're going to Woolies and we're some sort of household that's just trying to eat our money.
Most have. And I like the fact that the brother is the correct newspaper. At the newspaper yesterday, we were discussing with my colleagues. With my colleagues, we were discussing about the city of Johannesburg. One of them was raising a very pertinent issue to say anywhere you go in the world, countries make sure that their city, their main city, does not degenerate and becomes a scene of decay and crime, the way that we have allowed Johannesburg to be. You go to Lagos anywhere, it's still vibrant, it's still alive, it's still a city. You try and make sure that it maintains that life. When you look at Johannesburg now and the city, the other colleague chips in and he says, it seems like we have two cities. Those who can afford, avoid going down to the CBD. They've gone to the other city, which is Sandton and the rich, Mile Square. And there are people who cannot afford to be there where life exists for them in the CBD. Why do we not use the plans, the great plans that you always announce, and we don't actually get them into action? What happened to the urban renewal project?
Yay.
Another colleague said one of his friends, when the urban renewal project was happening, when the buildings were being taken care of and they were being made to look nice, moved into the CBD. Right now, he says his friend is doing everything he can to get out of the place.
Sure.
I think it just boils down to like a willing government and a willing leader who wants to go and tackle some of these issues that we're facing in our inner cities. Like this past week, I was in Cape Town, right? The past week, I have to bring
colony.
that. Yeah, I was in Cape Town,
calls.
and I was just so shocked to see how every single thing
Even you
works.
were shocked.
And I always get shocked when I'm there because I'm coming out of a city that I try to avoid. By all means, just like BBK is saying right now, I hardly ever go to the Johannesburg CBD. I try with everything in me to avoid going to the CBD. But when you can freely just live and be able to enjoy a city in the same country with, we don't have any excuses, guys. Like we have a blueprint that is right next to us here in the very same country.
But I would say that the city of Cape Town has an opposite problem.
Yes.
That the CBD is nice and free and whatever because it keeps itself so far removed from where many of the residents are. So you wouldn't say the same about Philippi. You wouldn't say the same about Langa. You wouldn't say the same about Googs, right?
Most definitely.
And that's the city of Cape Town's problem, is that it's not looking after its residents in its township areas. And even in the CBD right now, there's that court case that is still on the go where they're trying to keep low-cost housing outside of the city.
But I can also argue, though, Tessa, that even if we have a city like a CBD that's degenerating in Johannesburg, right? It doesn't mean that, since you're saying that that's the opposite problem, that the people in the townships that are in Johannesburg are even being taken care of themselves.
Fair.
So Diepsloot still exists. You still have you still have Freedom Park. You still have the mushrooming camp that's down there in the south of Johannesburg. People have been crying for services, but it's just not happening.
I want to bring in one of our callers because also we want to talk about the CBD and what our response should be. And I think Jabo wants to respond to Tsepo, who spoke to us earlier in that fiery call for the cleanup of the city. Jabo from Fourways, welcome to Power Breakfast.
Tessa, I'm sorry. I just want to respond to Tsepo's story. For every 10,000 informal traders that are in Johannesburg, there's over 2 million jobs that have been lost.
Yeah.
For every 10,000 informal traders that are in the state of Johannesburg, there's over 2 million jobs that have been lost. You've got what else? you've got shops, you've got offices, you've got everything. But that city, there's nothing now. When you go to that city, there's absolutely nothing. So you can entertain vendors next door to the country shop. If you open a boutique shop, are you going to allow people to stand in front of your windows and sell tomatoes and all the stuff? It's not going to happen.
Right.
So we need to understand that the fact that we want vendors to be there, there need to be designated areas for vendors where they could sell and do their business separately so that they don't interfere with other businesses. It's informal. So really.
And 100%. I mean, there are 3 million people who are informally employed in South Africa. And so I do think we owe them to do better in terms of infrastructure in the cities so that they aren't seen as people who we need to get rid of, but people that we can help nurture and accommodate because they are also adding to the economy. And that was the point where I disagreed with Seppo. So I agree that we want to have a city that is easy to navigate, that is safe, where everything feels like it's in order. But the job of the city is to bring the order. It's not the vendor's job to bring the order to themselves. It's the city's job. And that's where I think we are missing it. But we can just take the last traffic of the day before we continue this conversation and land the plane for Power Breakfast.
Power traffic.
And just adding on to that, the city is not the buildings that you're seeing in the city, right? The city are the people that are meant, that are elected to go and manage the city.
The people.
Just do your job, bro. Like, just imagine I just kept quiet and I don't give you a traffic report right now. I mean, I'm expected to give a traffic report. The least I can do,
at least you have capacities
to give a traffic report. Let's check out what's happening in your roads. If you're traveling on the N1 South, you can expect delays between the Brakfontein interchange and the New Road exit. The R55 South is backed up approaching Arthur Avenue. Olifantsfontein Road eastbound is also experiencing heavy pressure from the Savannah Hills Estate approaching the Old Pretoria Main Road intersection. You can also expect delays traveling towards Olifantsfontein Road. That's on Old Johannesburg, as well as Lever Road southbound getting out of Country View. If you are in Four Ways and you are traveling on Leslie Avenue eastbound, there's queuing traffic approaching Winnie Mandela. You can also expect delays as you're traveling past Lone Hill on Main Road southbound approaching Witkoppen Road. And remember, if you come across any further traffic incidents, tweet at Power987 Traffic. For Power Traffic, I'm Lebohang Pukela.
Power traffic.
Power Drive with Thabiso Kotane.
There I go again, Fifi. I messed it up again. Cricket match is not over.
Oh!
Somebody sent me old information.
Yes.
No, it's not over, guys.
Oh, okay.
It's just not over. Somebody misled me and said, there they go again.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. Sorry, guys. Your pretty little bubble is still floating in the air. Sorry about
Order has been restored.
See, trusting people with this information is also a big thing. I'm not doing
look at what happened to me the last time I trusted someone with information. Kantate Budana. And that individual knows exactly who they are.
I remember that. Yeah, that's a perfect example.
And I hope you're listening.
No. That's a perfect example. You said he's gone.
Yes. Off of trusting someone's word.
There we are. So sorry, guys. I've got a Kaizer Chiefs sign in the air as we speak. With regards to that, we'll wait for Kev. Should not involve myself in things that I know very little about.
Power Drive, weekdays 3 to 6 p.m. on Power 98.7.
Power Drive is proudly brought to you by the Road Accident Fund. Your trip shouldn't end with RIP. The Road Accident Fund, an entity of the Department of Transport.
Mzansi, play Powerball and Powerball Plus for 67 million rand in total estimated jackpots this Friday. And you could make it rain lots of cash this March. That's right, play Powerball for an estimated 37 million rand and Powerball Plus for an estimated 30 million rand today. Buy your tickets now in store on nationallottery.co.za, the mobile app, cell phone banking, or simply dial *120*7529# for USSD. Panda, Pusha, play. Players must be 18 years old and play responsibly. E2 is the proud operator of the National Lottery.
Send us your voice notes on 083-303-7093.
Good morning, Power FM listeners. It's your boy Mesh. I don't know why is Cyril Ramaphosa worried about streets not being cleaned for G8.
G20.
And being surprised of certain buildings downtown, city of Joburg in Pretoria, Ekurhuleni. Khanti President Udula guy. And who are you leading, President? Who must know all these things? Thank you.
That was perfect.
Good morning, Tess, and your team there.
Good morning.
This is Letawa from Lotus. Tess, I want to say you are doing a good job, and your team there, BBK, Lewam Pogel, and the producers. Guys, you are doing a good job.
Of course.
It feels the same. It feels like home. Power breakfast. You are doing a good job, guys. Keep it up, guys. You are doing a good job. This is Letawa from Lotus. Today, I don't want to complain. I just want to compliment you guys. Doing a good job.
Guys, we're so grateful for the warm welcome this week. It has been amazing. Ntlakanipo, you have the last say today on Power Breakfast for the week. What do you have to say about the city?
Good morning, Tessa.
Good morning.
Good morning. Tessa, listen, I can hear your concern regarding the city of Cape Town, but you bring a race issue. However, let's be fair and honestly. Cleanliness is nothing to do with the race. Tessa, I started working in 1997. And ever since I work across all the government departments. Let me tell you, there's an attitude within us, black people. We have a don't care attitude. If I can give you an example, not far away from where you're coming from, what you call El Dorado police station, go there and go check. I've been servicing that police station, I don't know for how many years. Those people who are working there, station commanders, all the people who are running that police station, they have don't care attitude. You can come in there, take any equipment without being asked any question. But if I go to Parkview police station during the time of so-called apartheid, white people who are working there, they will ask me, how can I help you, what you're looking for? And they will direct me to any office. But if you come to our black, for example, Park station, there's no phones, there's no lights working in the police station that is right in the CBD Park station. So we don't have a caring spirit as black African people.
You know, in fairness to me, I didn't mention race, but I hear your point, and my point is this. Is that the city and every city needs to deliver for all of its people in all ways that matter. And it's one thing to say that the city of Cape Town is doing the right thing in the inner city, but we also know that it's at the expense of not doing the right thing in other places. And that was my only point that I was making. And for me, again, it isn't a race issue. It is a matter of saying our cities must work for everyone and the city must work. So when you're talking about that police station failing, one of my pet peeves in El Dorado Park is that police station's failure. And we've seen protests outside of that police station from time to time because of its failures. My question is, who does the buck stop with to make sure that that police station works as well as the one in Parkview? Because I should not have to go to Parkview. And in fact, last year, my family found ourselves in that situation where we had to bypass the El Dorado Park police station because we did not trust them to help us in an urgent situation and come to the northern suburbs to get. It should not be that way. But thank you so much for being our last caller of the day today. As we wrap up our first week of Power Breakfast with this new team, we're landing this plane in a way that we salute again our artists. Today, I came with this provocation that just said to us that our artists do really need our support. And so that's the way I wanted us to end the show today. I started off with Nina Simone saying to us that it's the job of the artist to reflect the times. And I've said reflect and project the times. And this is actually a shout out to Dr. Hussein Ndlozi. I know that he's a fan of Nina Simone. This is my olive branch to him. I've been a little spicy in the last 2 days. So we end off with Nina Simone giving us some words of inspiration. And forever on this platform, we sign off love and revolution as you go into the weekend. say all the things that I want to say. Say it loud, say it clear. It feels to be free.
I wish I could break
all the chains holding
still binding me. Wish I could say
all the things I want to say
when I'm relaxed.
Say it loud, say it clear, for the whole wide world to hear. And that's how we end off the show. We're ready for Dr. Mbuyiseni Ndlozi after the news. At the top of the hour, it is 9 o'clock on Power FM.
Power Breakfast was proudly brought to you by Telkom Business. Possible begins here.
Power News.
The top story is President Ramaphosa to engage Johannesburg Metro Council on the city's future plans, and Small Business Minister Stella Ndabeni launches Shared Economic Infrastructure Facilities Initiative. A very good morning. I'm Nompumelelo Ngubeni. President Cyril Ramaphosa said to continue his oversight visit in Gauteng, this time with the Johannesburg Metro Council.